What's up? What's happening? Welcome in. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hope that you are having an excellent Thursday, a Thursday of which I spent part of in Ashburn. So we will get to some of the sound bites from the Commanders' press conferences today, which were Jack Del Rio and Eric Bieniemy, in just a few minutes. First, I'm going to download all of the graphics that I apparently forgot to download earlier, which is fine for me. And also, Anthony, can you make sure your camera's on real quick in there? It does not look like your camera's activated. Is it not plugged in? What's going on over there? Because I need to bring you in for something here as we get started. Because I just witnessed in this here studio one of the funniest exchanges I've ever heard in my entire life. It's certainly in my entire career. And that is with the man standing behind you.
Uh-oh.
And which is Linnell Willingham, who's hovering around after he just wrapped up with the Rooster. And it's and Matt Essig. So Matt Essig, who produces that fine radio program, comes in as the changeover is happening between us and that show. And he goes, Linnell, I have to congratulate you. And Linnell's like, for what? And my ears perk up. I'm like, oh boy, this is about to be good. And Matt goes, I've been producing sports talk radio for 7 years, and I have never once had a host where I disagreed with literally everything they said for an entire show.
Wow.
Fair. Probably did disagree with me. It's okay. I kept us on board today, Hoffman.
What does on board mean?
When you're dealing with the Rooster, it's more so I kept them in the cage. How about that? I kept them in the cage.
No, you didn't. There's no, it's not possible.
Impossible is nothing. Basketball is a brotherhood.
Okay, slogan man.
I'm at a loss for words, actually.
You know who's never at a loss for words?
Really cool polo on.
He's standing behind you. That's who's never at a loss for words.
I don't think he's ever at a loss for words.
Never.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. Thanks for the kind words on the polo, though.
What'd you say?
I said he said one of us was wearing a nice polo. I don't know whether it was.
Who has a nice polo?
Oh yeah, yours is pretty nice. I am also wearing this is the first time I'm wearing a collared shirt to
I was about to say, Craig. I was definitely taken aback when I saw you earlier with that polo.
I feel weird. I need a haircut. I'm wearing a collared shirt. I'm just holding on, bro. We're just trying to get through the week.
I forgot all about your haircut thing.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow's the day that it's happening. I know Linnell now wants me to not get a haircut until the Commanders lose.
Ooh.
So that would be That's not gonna happen. I need to get one. Although you know who does like my hair this absurdly long. Although I don't know if she likes it. Yeah, whether she likes it because she likes it or whether she likes it because she thinks it's hilarious. But my wife does like the long hair.
Wow. Maybe you just get, some of it trimmed as opposed to a full cut.
Whoops. Yeah, that's possible. I mean, we're definitely gonna clean up the sides.
Okay.
And then we're gonna shorten it up.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm coming back tomorrow. By the time the show comes on and people are checking it out on YouTube, it's not like I'm gonna have no hair.
Yeah.
We know this is doing something for me. Right now, it's making me look like a man who needs a comb.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really do a good job, apparently, when I got out of the shower. Just kind of let it dry after my run, where I felt like I was going to die and my heart was going to come out of my chest. I'm actually curious. Where's my phone? What was my max? We're going to get to Eric Bieniemy and Jack Del Rio's quotes in 5 minutes. But how max heart rate on that run? Yeah, 187, and I felt every bit of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's it?
Take it nice and easy, he told himself before he started.
Yeah.
And on an interval run, not so much.
How many miles did you run?
It wound up being actually pretty much an exact 5K. It wound up being like 3.1. But that was like, it was like a 9-minute warm up, and then seven rounds of 2 minutes like hard run, 1 minute jog recovery, walk jog, and I was just very up and down with the whole thing. All right, I mean, I just tried to get faster as I went, and I did until the end when I was like, I think I'm going too fast, and my heart, I feel it in a way that I don't think I'm supposed to feel my heart. So the last like 15 seconds, I'm just pounding the down arrow on the treadmill, trying not to die.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what
Sounds
I did.
like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll see how my legs feel. Also, I had an Uber Eats order cancel on me.
Oh, that's
and I'm
painful.
a little scared. Oh, nope. Aaliyah's on the way.
Shout out Aaliyah.
Shout out to Aaliyah. Although it seems I ordered from somewhere that is within walking distance, and it seems Aaliyah is in a car. And it does seem like she's taken a circuitous route.
Is she running
around the ballpark? Like we really, instead of someone driving, we really just needed someone who was going to walk across the street for me.
Or bike.
Or bike, scooter, whatever. We needed them to go from, if you're watching on the stream, there's obviously the shade down, because otherwise we'd have backlighting, and that'd be bad. We can't be doing that. But like, we need someone to walk from there to here. Instead, we got someone driving around a circle. Which
It'll
means
get here.
I'm going to have to do another segment after this before I go get my food.
Yep.
But you want to know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do another segment, and then we're going to go get our food. In that segment, you'll hear from Jack Del Rio and Eric Bieniemy, which might be more interesting or might be less than anything we just said.
To warn you, bro, it is a mess in downtown Nashville every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Not even
we moved hotels the next night. I still am waiting on my refund for that. But yeah, we moved hotels the second night.
Wow.
It was fun. You say they rely on them. We went to brunch with my buddy the next day, who is a Nashville native and has lived in Nashville long enough that he remembers when it was more than just the Bachelorette capital of the world. And he's like, yeah, we're pretty much on the woo girl economy.
Yeah, that's precisely what's going on. The downtown businesses cater to that. If you try to get it shut down, you're probably the one getting thrown out. It is what it is right now. It's weird, but Nashville, baby. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So I will add one more small part to this story, and this is the part, frankly, that I've been waiting to tell you all week as well. That was kind of part one. We got quality Yates reaction. Part two, as we leave the hotel the next morning to go to breakfast. Remember, the wall's very thin. So it's not going where you think it's going. But as we walk down the hallway, my dear sweet wife just starts saying in a slightly elevated volume of voice, you know, it's been proven that the later groups stay out and make noise and all this stuff at their bachelorette weekend, the higher the divorce rate.
Oh God!
In the wedding,
so
and also the better chances,
basically.
And also the better chances.
Wow. Okay. Okie dokie. So Rachel was pissed, basically.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of tolerance for the woo girls. They say on the internet, like, feel free to post stuff, like your friends' photos, do whatever. But like whatever you do for your own well-being, don't read the comments. Comment section, bad idea. What do we do?
We read those comments, baby.
That is exactly what we do. That was a little bit better. I still feel like that one was a little muted. I think sometimes it feels like you build yourself up a little too much, and then sometimes you don't quite go for it.
I ain't want to go screaming all the way. The thing is, though, my mic is a little lower than yours, so maybe I could have actually, did what I really.
The mic also moves. You can go, ooh. Did you know you could play tricks with a microphone?
I think I'll try that next time.
Okay. You want to give another shot?
We read those comments, baby.
There we go. All right. I feel ready now. It is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, or as we call it on this Thursday, the Polo Boys. Anthony, what is your polo, by the way? It's very nice.
So one of my friends, they have a brand, and it's called Malinzi.
Okay.
It's Malinzi, and they've been putting out merch since COVID, 2020.
Okay. They want to be the official brand of the show?
I think they would love that.
Okay, well, it costs money, so they gotta talk to the sales team. But like, it is some sweet gear.
Yes, sir.
It is sweet.
Are you sporting Nike? Because I think an endorsement from them would be crazier.
Yeah, I mean that would be great if look, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, any of y'all want to sponsor the show. Under Armour, a fine DMV based company, like whatever. Give me stuff. Have us have an official apparel company. I also am a fitness professional, so like you're active, fit.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should have one.
I would love it.
Can you imagine the official sportswear company of the Hoffman Show?
Man, I will come in here decked out every day.
Every day. And we're on video. I'm just saying, people have told us we're attractive.
I think we will have to do full body fits if that was to ever,
You know how they do like fit pics walking into games?
Yeah.
What if we do that in the show every day?
Exactly.
It's a lot of pressure, man.
Back up real quick.
Yeah. I do got some pretty good fire on my feet right now.
What you got on, man?
I got these guys on.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I somehow did that in a way that wasn't terribly awkward.
Yeah.
It's kind of natural. All right. Let's hear from Eric Bieniemy, shall we? Obviously, a huge talk of what Bieniemy has been trying to, or what the story around Bieniemy the last week and change has been the very pass-happy nature of the offense. It is very clear that this is a man that in Kansas City picked up some habits from Andy Reid that Eric Bieniemy, the 1990s running back, would be appalled by. But the game has changed, and he's a very smart man, and he understands how to create good offense in the modern NFL, and that is to use the running game as a tool. But that is a tool to offset a very potent and powerful passing game. And the splits reflect that. And so here Bieniemy was today answering questions about a first half in which there ultimately wound up being 33 dropbacks and 7 rushing attempts in a game where his team scored 35 points.
I think, first of all, we got a heck of a staff, okay? Our staff does an outstanding job of working, making sure that we have a complete understanding of the opponent that we're facing. On top of that, we're always dotting our I's and crossing our T's. When we're putting our game plan together, we want to make sure that it's very diverse in many areas. So, obviously, we want to run it. We also want to throw it. But we also understand that in certain situations, you got to make sure that you're giving your best players an opportunity to go out there and be their best. So, for us, we're going to go with whatever we're feeling throughout that particular time. There is no such thing to say that we're just going to come out and run the ball in this particular game, or we're just going to throw the ball in this particular game. Now, we have a diverse offense. We got a lot of guys who brings a lot to the table, and the beauty of it is that, I'm very fortunate to have a coaching staff that understands that we got to make sure that we have a complete understanding of the opponent that we're playing so we can give our guys answers when needed.
EB has gotten very good, or I won't say has gotten like it happened while he was here. EB is very good at saying nothing while not, or saying a lot while saying nothing, right? He completely deflects in terms of the actual substance of the question, right? Hey, what goes into run versus pass? And he's like, well, it depends on all these things that everybody already knows. And by the way, it gives a gigantic compliment to his staff. But if you read between the lines a little bit, you get the kind of real answer. Like, it is game specific, because it's not like there's some secret, right? It is actually just as obvious as it would appear. It is opponent specific, game situation specific, score, et cetera, and flow, who's playing well, who's not. And I actually asked Del Rio about this as well, because I asked him a question about Jamin, which we'll get to later, about, hey, this is a guy that you guys drafted in the first round and whatever, and he's playing really well. So how do you try to get him on the field more versus what the scheme dictates based off of your opponent's X's and O's and where the strengths and weaknesses are? And he basically was like, that is the art of coaching. Like, that is what we're trying to do every week, and it changes as time goes. So did I get a beautiful artistic answer out of something? No, but it is art, not science in that way. Where I was onto something with Bieniemy, though, is a theory that I posited on the show earlier this week. And sometimes by a coach saying nothing, you actually get told a ton. I think part of the reason they're passing a lot early in these games, you want to try to get Sam into a rhythm. You want to try to back the safeties up. But also you're trying to gather information. And by putting certain players in certain positions, whether it's, hey, Terry's in the slot or Terry's out wide, Jahan's here, the tight ends are there, the running backs are split a certain way. We have a bunch here. We have a 3-by-1, 3 receivers on one side, one on the other, or a 2-by-2, or a 3-by-2, or a 4-by-1. All of those football-y things, which to some of you are very basic, and some of you might be like, what is he talking about? They all garner responses from the defense. Specifically, for instance, a 4-by-1, you go empty, so no running backs in the backfield, 4 receivers on one side, 1 receiver on the other, often dictates a very specific coverage. So a defense will check to a coverage, and obviously the offense can see that on tape during the week, and they might want to test to make sure that check is still in play early in a game. It's an automatic type of thing. So you come out in a 4-by-1. If the defense starts checking, and then you run the play, you have to obviously run a pass play to double check this, because they're not going to run coverage against the run. Also, in this particular example, it's 4-by-1. You're empty, so there actually is no running back in the backfield, the way at least I've described it. And thus, you want to see if they play that coverage. You then get the pictures on the sideline, check, okay, we got it. Now we know later in the game, we can go to a 4-by-1, we're going to get this coverage, and we have a play to beat it. And so I asked a version of that question to Bieniemy of like, hey, early in games, you've got these heavy skew passing. I know some of these are run-pass option plays where Sam could have handed them, but what are you thinking about in your script in terms of, scoring, trying to start fast, but also gathering information? And he said,
I think all that answers the question. Oh, no, not at all. I'm good.
Couldn't hear in the background, that was me saying, it's more fun when you say it, though. I'm good, says Eric Bieniemy. And so that tells me, like, yes, my theory has shreds, if not a lot of truth to it. And that's something that we're going to see earlier in this game. And that's not necessarily a schematic advantage, because saying, hey, Buffalo, we're going to do a bunch of stuff, doesn't really actually give Buffalo an advantage. It's like, oh, God, we got to prepare for a bunch of stuff. as opposed to being like, hey, Buffalo, we're going to come out in a 3-by-2, and that 3 is going to be a bunch, and the 2 is going to be a stack, and they're going to be nasty splits, and off of that, we're going to run blah, 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 blah. Like, that's not what you're doing. But I also get that there's certain details he might not want to get into that because he doesn't necessarily want Sean McDermott to know exactly what information he's trying to garner, nevertheless, how he ultimately uses it. So I thought that was interesting today from Bieniemy, a theory that I was onto earlier in the week, that I was like, I think I have an idea of why this is happening, and I seem to be onto something there. Obviously, they've got to use that information well. They have to get Sam Howell into plays he likes, and they have to try to get him into a rhythm. It's not just about gathering information. How do you call a sequence of plays that gets Sam into a comfortable place? Here's Bieniemy on Howell's internal clock and making sure that that clock is correct in terms of when he's got to get rid of the ball and also in rhythm with his footwork, the route concepts, and what makes an offense cohesive.
You know what? We talk about that all the time. Timing, spacing always equates to timing. And then on top of that, I don't think there's any coach in the league will tell you that, hey, you gotta get rid of the ball, because that's probably the number one message that you're giving all quarterbacks. But on top of that, you want him to have a great feel for what you're doing. And so I think more than anything, it's his opportunity to show, but he just got to develop a feel. And every time, and I'll continue saying this, every time he's dropping back, he's running a play, something that shows up or pops up in that particular time, it's probably the first time that it has happened to him. And you can see it because sometimes when he's slightly hesitant, something probably didn't process the right way, and it's probably a little different for him, so you can see where he'll pause. Obviously, we talk about being decisive. So if there's something that throws you off, make sure that alternate plan kicks into your head right away. Let's not stay with it, Let's make sure that we have the answer. And so that's our number one job of making sure and giving him a complete understanding throughout the course of the week. Yes, we have a primary. Yes, we got a secondary. All right, but if it's not there, what is the next thing that you can do? And then we got to continue progressing to that. I thought as the game went along, I thought he did a great job of getting to the third and fourth options.
So that is something that I think someone like Josh Allen has evolved on and did actually a very good job of last week. Now, Allen holds the ball forever as well, but last week you could see there were times when he really got into a rhythm in the kind of the middle of that game where against Las Vegas, where Allen is like, okay, I'm at the top of my drop, my clock has gone off, I don't see what I like down the field, check down. And here's the thing I think I learned watching as much football as I did, and not just like football in person, but like football on tape with smart people and being able to ask questions and everything on the beat. I learned the value of an early check down. And there are times where, you're like, oh my God, it's 3rd and 6. Why are you throwing short of the sticks? And a guy gets tackled after 4 yards and you're like, oh man. But there's also times that works out, that you throw short of the sticks. But if you do it on time, what happens is defenders are pushed back, guarding deeper spaces, and then the guy can catch the ball and run. And like that's an early check down can get you 8 yards easy, where a late check down gets your guy killed on contact and 2 yards in terms of being in the backfield, or he catches the ball, for a 2-yard gain because he catches it in the backfield and defenses have had time to come up and come off other routes or, get width. That's another thing. Like, so a lot of times your check down is your back. And if there's a defender that's buzzing out from the middle of the field to the flat, if you're in a foot race, your running back versus their linebacker, often your running back can win that race. If you get him the ball early, get it in his hands and let him run. So there's these little nuances of quarterbacking that the best understand, and that's one of the things that EB's talking about there. It's like sometimes, yes, we want to go primary, secondary, tertiary, 1, 2, 3 through a progression. But sometimes it's based off the coverage. I'm going to look here, and if it's not there, my second read is actually my check down. It's one check. And by getting to that check down earlier, you take yourself out of harm's way, and you give the eventual ball carrier, the receiver, whether it's a running back, a tight end, or a actual wide receiver, a better chance at making a play in space because the defense is still, dropping to their zones or trying to match you in man or whatever it may be. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And when we get back, we're going to take your phone calls, unrelated to the things that we've been talking about here with the offense. We actually want to flip the field and talk about the defense. And yes, we're going to talk about Chase Young. Why? Because a lot of people last week were ready to punt on Chase Young, and I think that was silly. I thought it was silly at the time, but okay, fine, it is what it is. My question is, after seeing Chase Young play, have you changed your mind about Chase for this season and beyond? Seems simple enough. Let's see what we got. 301-230-0980. Where were you at on Chase last week? Where are you now? 301-230-0980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. Certainly is where he gets way too high. Yeah. There's sometimes he gets kind of buried inside, and there's alleys to the outside. But I think what's cool is you see as the game goes, I feel like it happened a little bit less, or like, he does it on one snap, and the very next snap he is super tight. He's super on the screws. I also think as the game goes, you see him and Allen playing with each other a little bit more. The way that they're able to do some stunts, some twists, some games up front, or just John realizes that, like, I got to pay a little bit more attention to what Chase is doing and then cover for him if he's going to do stuff. And I don't know which one of those it is, but I feel like he got better as the game went.
Sure.
And you see the high upside stuff that makes him super special. And if they can keep tightening the screws, then it's just going to get better and better as the year goes. And then, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple rushes where I was like, man, that could be better. And there was one. So, for example, on the fumble, on Jamin's fumble, like, he goes violent inside rush. And I was like, I wonder, like, that's poor rushing integrity, right? Because, obviously Russell Wilson's going to escape and scramble for a first down. But I do remember in the game plan show that I do with Coach Ron Rivera, I said, how do you kind of manage, like, a rusher's creativity? Because, they're basically artists, you know what I mean? Like they're going to, like, the creative rushers are the best rushers. The ones that rush outside of structure are the best because they can kind of do whatever, and it puts the offensive line in a bind. And he said, well, I think one of the things Jack has done a good job of is identifying packages where they can be Rembrandt, where they can go do what they want to do. And
did Ron really say Rembrandt?
No, I said Rembrandt. I'm churching up a little bit for Ron's sake. Anyway, but in that look, Jamin is spying Russell. And so if you're going to be Rembrandt in a situation, it's that situation. And then, so great inside move, vacates the pocket, and Jamin is really fast. Like, he is very, very fast. Like, holy cow, watching him to run that down was so impressive.
So this is a point I made yesterday, but I want to make it here too.
Yeah.
This is the difference between a first-round pick and like a third-round, fourth-round guy at linebacker is, let's just make it David Mayo. David Mayo could also spy Russell Wilson.
Yes.
But he probably runs him out of bounds, and it's probably a 2-3 yard gain. Jamin is so fast that he gets there before the sideline and is able to force a fumble. And that 1 to 2 yard difference, right, it's a sack, it's behind the line of scrimmage, but that 1 to 2 yard difference of escorting him out of bounds and having to live to fight another down versus the game-changing turnover is what makes a guy like Jamin Davis worth a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Now, he's got to be more consistent over time, and, I'd like to see him play more and all those types of things. But, like, when you talk about the special stuff of a Montez, of a Chase, of a Jamin Davis, like, that's the level of detail that we're talking about. 1 to 2 yards here and there, which is the difference between a turnover and a 3 yard gain out of bounds that is just a mundane play in the NFL. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. You can also catch us on YouTube at the Team 980, where this weekend you can also watch the Take Command pregame show, which is Sundays, 3 hours before kick, 1 o'clock game on Sunday. Will mean we're on the air at 10. You can come hang out with us starting at 11 at Tap Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor. So we will see you there. Of course, the game will be on CBS this weekend, called by Andrew Catalon's crew, which includes Matt Ryan. Andrew, the play-by-play man, will join us coming up at 6:15 today. Right now, though, taking some calls, 301-230-0980 on Chase Young. Real quick before we do that, though, actually, I just did want to pass on this note. Thanks for the reminder on the Warpath in our live chat on YouTube. Breaking news from Dallas. Yikes, man. Trayvon Diggs, their all-pro corner. Actually, I don't know if he's been named an all-pro. They're all-everything corner, all-intercepting corner. Has a torn ACL, non-contact injury in practice. You know, as much as you might not like the Cowboys, you obviously hate to hear that on a human level. Trayvon Diggs, DMV's own, out for the season, torn ACL in Dallas, a gigantic blow to their defense. They obviously have a ton of other talent there, but he is a big part of what they do. He helps create a ton of turnovers, which obviously changes games dramatically. Trayvon Diggs out for the season with a torn ACL. Okay, to the calls now, 301-230-0980. And the question is simple. After watching Chase Young play, after him not being an idea anymore, not this hyped guy that may or may not ever be the prince that was promised and blah, 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 blah. You got a football game. Did it change your mind? 301-230-0980. Let's go to Aaron in D.C. to get us started. Aaron, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Thanks so much for taking my call. So initially I was on the fence with Chase Young, but after seeing him go out on the field and drive back the tackles, getting sacks and being so disruptive, I'm interested in trying to see if we can get him to continue to produce like that throughout the season and trying to find a way to keep him here for the long haul. If there's a way they can sign him and keep him, I think that we definitely should if we have a chance to have that kind of player. He's very disruptive. He's almost like playing peekaboo with the defensive tackle and Russell Wilson. It was something really to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good reminder, Aaron. Thanks for the call. I mean, Chase, man, he's just so talented. There just aren't guys running around the league with that combination of size, speed, skill, and power. Because he's got moves, like he's got, different pass rush moves. It's not like he's reliant solely on his athleticism, but his athleticism is literally off the charts. He's one of the best athletes that's ever tested at the NFL Combine, to the extent that he actually did stuff at the Combine. But if he had done like a complete thing, like his raw athletic score would have probably broken the chart. They just don't make them like that. And so you combine that with some of the discipline and the way that he rushed at Ohio State, and there's no wonder this dude was the number one pick. And had Joe Burrow not had the greatest college football season that arguably anyone's ever had in the history of the sport at quarterback, Chase would have been the number one pick. It just so happened that that he falls to 2 because his former teammate, Ohio State, who couldn't get on the field for the Buckeyes, goes to LSU and breaks the record book with Jamar Chase and company. So I think with Chase, the play is going to be about consistency. Like, you see the flashes, but you also see the flashes of immaturity in his game, right? I'm not talking about him as a human being. Like, I'm talking about him as a football player, where you can get away with certain stuff in college, you can get away with certain stuff as a rookie, and everyone's like, he's a rookie, he's going to get better. And by the time you're in your third year and you're starting to talk about getting paid, your fourth year, and it's like, okay, are we going to pay this guy? Are we going to keep him around? Or other teams are looking, going, okay, what is he worth to us on the open market? Those things are no longer quite as excusable. And so when he takes a super wide rush angle and lets Russell Wilson out of the pocket, or gives him an easy throw when it should have been a tough throw over Chase, like, those are the kinds of things that skilled scouts, which all of them at the NFL level are, if I can see it, they can see it, look at and go, let's downgrade a little bit, not quite as worth it. And then how does that ultimately lead to him getting his money or not? And also they're going to say, can we coach this guy up? Can we be the ones that fixed it? Because he is still young in his career. But I think the upside flash is what you see and changes the minds potentially of a lot of people. What I think is also interesting is how tied together Sam Howell and Chase Young are from the financial standpoint. If Sam is a franchise quarterback, and at least you think he is coming out of this year, where he's your guy next year, you can pay Chase Young. Maybe you don't go long-term pay him, but you can afford to pay Montez and tag Chase. Like, there's 3 guys that have to get taken care of. There is Chase, Montez, and Cam Curl. Cam, you're 100% signing to a long-term deal unless he all of a sudden is demanding, like, preposterous money, in which case you are talking about potentially franchising him or hoping that Percy Butler and Derek Forrest and Quan Martin are your guys for the future, and you are really screwed if some other team wants to pay him, and you're almost hoping that, like, all right, go get your money a la Landon Collins, but you ain't going to like it very much. We know how to use you. Like, you're at your best here. You get a bunch of money. What are we doing? So I think that is on the table, but I don't think that Cam will be unreasonable. They haven't had a chance to do it yet. So that's one guy. Ideally, he gets signed long-term, and then you can play the long-term versus franchise 1-year deal with the 2 ends, where you don't necessarily immediately lock yourself into the long-term, and you can string it out over an extra year. But we'll see. Obviously, if Chase turns out to be awesome, there might be a little bit of regret in hindsight about the 5th-year option, but we all agreed at the time it was very silly to pay him that 5th-year option. It was just basic math. It was worth the risk on the risk-reward scale. And so to go back in hindsight and be like, that was a mistake, I don't think is remotely fair. We got some more calls, so we will get to them in a moment. 301-230-0980. Del Rio also talked about Chase today, so we'll get you that. That's all after we tell you what's trending here on The Hoffman Show.
Here's what's trending on the Team 980.
Huge night at Nats Park in terms of excitement. Braves are in town. Who cares about that, the actual game? But it's crossover night with the Commanders sending a whole bunch of folks. I know B. Mitch is headed over there. And while that is very exciting, even Brian would tell you Josh Harris throwing out the first pitch, probably a bigger deal. So head out to Nats Park, see some of your favorite Commanders doing all kinds of stuff. Crossover night at the ballpark. Game starts at 7:05. Pregame 6:35 on 106.7 The Fan. Thursday night football tonight. Giants at 49ers. San Francisco already 2-0 on the year and facing a banged-up New York squad. Giants going to be without Saquon Barkley tonight, amongst others. Their starting left tackle also out. Don't expect to see Panthers starting quarterback, number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young, on Sunday. He is not practiced through 2 days of the week. Expect Red Rocket Andy Dalton to start for Carolina. That is what's trending. I'm Craig Hoffman on the Team 980. They get real Icarus-y, to go back to your Greek mythology days. You remember the story of Icarus, Anthony?
Not quite, Frank.
What do they teach you at Georgetown Prep? Icarus, the guy who flies too close to the sun. What do they teach you at Georgetown? Anthony, I think you just put your job at risk at Georgetown Prep.
Why?
There's no way that they did not teach you the story of Icarus at Georgetown Prep.
We actually did a lot of Greek mythology, but we didn't talk about Icarus flying too close to the sun.
Yes, you did. You don't remember it. I feel very confident. Who can we call
It's okay.
at Prep
I'm
to
ask
confirm
my kids
this?
I mean, I will just do that right now, actually.
Okay. I would like you to ask someone of authority. Do we teach about Icarus?
2 hours later.
Did we ever check in on that, Anthony?
Yeah, my classmates actually texted me and said, yeah, we've done it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to figure out where you were on that day of class at a later date.
You're right.
last night, Aryna Sabalenka makes the U.S. Open final, the Belarusian player, and here's how it sounded on Belarusian television.
Арина Соболенко! Ваму! Что Арина недостойна звания первой ракетки мира.
Yeah.
Получите! Распишитесь!
Oh, yeah.
Rising up, back on the street. Did my time, took my chances. When the distance, now I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his will to survive. So many times it happens too fast.
Oh, you
change your passion for glory. It's the eye of the tiger. It's the thrill of the night. Rising up to the challenge of a rival. And they lost, no survival. Все, ребята, я сдулся.
10 out of 10. No notes. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Taking your calls on the Ace Law listener line, 301-230-0980. If you're in a wreck, Ace Law gets you a check. Give them a call today, 8888 Ace Law. So the question is, after seeing Chase Young play an actual football game, not a oh my God, I remember what he was like as a rookie, or I've seen enough because I haven't seen him. After he's on the field, we're done with the injury, done with the knee, done with the stinger, and you saw him actually play football. What do you think now? Did it change your mind? 301-230-0980. Let's go to Saeed on that Ace Law listener line. Thanks for calling.
He's in our league, too.
Hey, thanks.
He's in the Hoffman League.
Basically, our version of Anthony Davis from the Lakers. I think when you look at his measurables, you're like, God created this guy to to do this, and that's pretty much it. But the thing is, I think we just got to let it play out. I don't think 1 game, 2 games, 5 games are going to be enough. And quite frankly, like you look at guys like, Sweat right now, and we're wondering, has he done enough to make him top 5, top 6 paid at his position? And we're still kind of on the fence as a fan base about that. So you can't, if you're still on the fence about Sweat, which I don't think anybody should be on the fence about anymore, if you're on the fence about Sweat, then you have to be on the fence about Chase. You can't say Chase and his body work has outplayed Sweat. And this isn't basketball. You don't have 82 games where you can take 15 off, or save him for the playoffs. We're not that kind of team. So I think we just let him go another 5, 6, 7, 8 games before we start making that kind of decision. And even at the end, I'm just worried. I don't know if you have an opinion on if, we can franchise him at the end of the season. I don't know who else right now we'd ever consider franchising by the end of this season that we couldn't necessarily just give a contract to, but could we do something like that? But otherwise, I just think let it play out, see where he goes, and see if that roller coaster can stay more at the top than at the bottom.
Yeah, I think the Anthony Davis one's interesting. By the way, Saeed, before we let you go, Saeed, of course, in our Hoffman Show Fantasy League, how have you done through 2 weeks?
Oh, my goodness. I was hoping that you weren't going to start talking about that. I literally invested in linebackers, and Barkley and Chubb, in the same day, are, dunzo for me. So, yeah, I was hoping, I was going to call in with a different name, but I figured you guys would catch the number. Yeah, 0-2 right now.
And you have Barkley and Chubb. So like you're
I have Barkley, I have Chubb, literally every single player. Like I'm the kiss of death. So every player pretty much in my team has
hold on, was it Saeed,
injury.
was it you though who said that was your into the league because like you were going to get everyone else hurt for the sake of the Commanders?
No.
That was
else.
okay because that was someone's bit to get into the league.
That's borderline criminal.
Yeah, well,
you should get that person checked out. But
yeah, we probably should. Instead, we let him in the league.
Yeah, but no. I literally struggled in those first 2 weeks, and every player that I touch, they get injured. Even the players that are not officially declared injured by the NFL, I'm pretty sure have mental health issues since being added to my roster. I just can't verify that. So it's really been a tough 2 weeks.
Yikes, man! Yikes.
Saeed also plays me this week.
The smile on Anthony's face right now, Saeed, can only be described as megawatt. Megawatt smile.
I literally, you can go look and you'll see like O's and Q's, which
that's all
for those playing at home are not good letters to be next to all your players.
Yeah.
I have like O's and Q's all over the place.
Yikes, man. Well, best of luck in recovering your fantasy season, and thanks for the call because actually the Anthony Davis one is a good talking point, and I'll talk about the franchise things as well. Saeed from the Fantasy League with a fantastic call all around, except for him. Anthony, I think the AD thing is interesting because you have
He stole my thunder.
Oh, is that you? You were gonna do that?
I was over here brainstorming. I was like, if Craig comes to me, all right, this is what I'm gonna say. Okay, AD. And then Saeed calls, and I'm like, you stole my thunder. But I let him have it anyway.
He did. So I love that comparison.
Yeah.
Basketball and football are very, very different. The impact a single basketball player can have is far, 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 far more than any single football player outside of quarterback. But can a Chase Young win you a football game in December, January, and hopefully, if you're the Commanders, February? Yeah, he can. Like, I don't think the Bills are, like, would the Bills rather have Von Miller for all 17 games? Of course, but if he's back for the rest of the season, like, they ain't going to be mad about it. You have to make the playoffs before you can worry about winning in them, obviously. But Chase is so dynamic and such an intense playmaker where he'll cause the strip sacks, get the deflections, things like that, that he can change a playoff game. And they're just, the list of guys that you confidently say that about is not very high. And if you tell me right now that for the next 5 years, I can get 13 games a year of Chase Young, but he's going to be good to go in the playoffs, I'd sign up for that. He never is going to play 17. Okay, fine. Is he available in the playoffs? Yep. And is he available for 3/4 to, 5/8 of the season? Yeah. Okay, cool. Sign me up. Sign me up. Like that, I'm in for that. But there is the financials of how that affects the rest of the roster and what does that mean for Montez. And this is where I think the franchise tag does come in. And like why Sam being on the cheap, sorry, Sam, is so important because if Howell is your guy, the $40 to $50 million that you would typically be spending on quarterback can go other places, and that's 2.5 defensive linemen. And when your 2.5 defensive linemen are all first rounders, like that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, like has my perception of him changed at all? I wouldn't say it's changed. Again, I know the talent, I know the production, it's all there. Like we got a good glimpse of it his rookie season. Yeah, sophomore year he didn't get off to the best start, and then last year he was mostly injured. But we knew the kind of the caliber player that Chase Young was, and I think it all just comes down to like whether or not he can stay on the field. He is sort of kind of battling with his counterpart in Montez Sweat. But at the same token, both of these guys are in year four for Chase.
Yes,
and then year
for
5
Sweat.
Yeah, so I think over time we already knew they were going to grow, get better, and I didn't expect Chase to peak so early. So what I'm expecting year 4, yes, like a lot, and this is also what Montez has said about him. They've seen a different maturity in Chase, so I think that just comes with time, and I'm just glad that he's finally back on the field, and if he can stay on the field, it's going to be a tough decision whether or not who you end up giving the money to. Hopefully, it can be both, but it is going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think remember, you can also tag and trade.
Yep.
Like if they're that valuable, the problem is you have 3 dudes you got to pay.
Yeah,
and you cannot let Cam Curl out the door.
Nope.
For nothing. That is for sure. And if that involves franchising him after the year and letting one of these other dudes walk, like that's going to be tough. But I think the hardest thing about Chase is you don't like. I know who Montez Sweat is as a player. He's continuing to get better. He's more and more refined. He's more and more consistent. Yep. He is still ascending, although we are getting near his peak. And what he is right now, I mean, he's got 3 sacks in 2 games. Like, he's a monster. He's so freaking good. But Chase doesn't have the reps. Chase has not had the time because of the injury where he's basically missed almost 2 full years. I guess he played most of that 2021 season. It just wasn't very good. And most people then want to shrink that down to like he played 2 games and then got hurt. No, he played it was like week 7. But we don't know what Chase is going to be because he's still so early in his trajectory because it got slowed down. Because the trajectory has to do with you being on the field and learning and getting better and refining and getting coached. And he didn't do any of that the last couple of years. So I think that's the challenge with him is like we're getting such a high percentage of our overall input to his data log, if you will. Wow, what a dorky way I just said that. But each game is like such a more significant part of our file on him than Montez, who we have 4 years of actual football where he's played most weeks as the kind of resume to judge him on. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back, Matt Bové, who is the host of the Take Command of Buffalo, if you will. It's always game day in Buffalo. I was on their pod yesterday. Matt's going to join us live here on the radio show today. Matt Bové next for Not My Beat. You also get to hear about his children's book, which is something that I don't think I've ever gotten to say about a guest before. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it over his right shoulder there. But by the way, aren't you glad I said right shoulder? Because if you're on camera and trying to figure out when they flip the things, and I never know which way to point. I tried to fix my hat the other day, and I turned it the wrong way.
So the fact that you think that your verbal cue of right actually helped me out. I would be this is legitimately the first time I've actually gotten the point right over the shoulder. I would be the world's worst, and it's not even close, weather person. The green screen thing, man, to me is not my friend. So this was just dumb luck that I pointed in the right direction. And if you make reference to it again, there is a chance that I actually go the wrong way. So
okay, it seems like a lovely newspaper article over there, just not what you wrote for children. When you're a beat reporter, like Ken confirm, you get a lot of requests to do stuff, and you just hope that they don't suck. And most of the time, they're actually pretty fun, especially like the radio stuff. Sometimes you get on a podcast and you go, yeah, this is a wacky bit, but whatever. It's fine. But I try to say yes to as many things as I can. I don't know if you saw, there's a whole dialogue on the internet yesterday because Kyle Brandt went on Good Morning Football and whined about doing too many podcasts.
Oh, wow.
Because they did like a fun question of like, what's your dream podcast to be a guest on? And everyone's like, this pod, like obviously people, I'm guessing we're saying like the Kelsey Brothers podcast and, all the some of the big NFL ones. And he was like, none. I'm not going to lie. Like I'm overdoing podcasts. Like, and he was like, there was a tinge of self-awareness. He's like, look, I used to be a guy with the podcast, like, but I can't. You get on there, and then they want you on camera, and they want you to fix the light. And I'm like, if you just set up at a desk like a professional, then you don't have to fix that stuff. Like people are always stunned when I get on to do their podcast, and I'm sitting right here. Like, what am I gonna do? Go sit in a lazy boy on the roof?
Stand outside with your phone like this.
Yeah, just selfie mode, mailing it in. No, like I committed to doing your show. You were nice enough to ask me on. So, and it's also convenient for me because I sit in my desk and I'm comfortable and I have my headphones and my microphone and I'm set up and I'm good to go. It is what it is. If my setup looks better than yours, then that's your problem.
Really straightforward, man.
Yeah, it's just not that hard. So, but he was whining about it. And I'm like, if you were a guy with a podcast once and you made it to TV, then maybe you should be nice enough, because also this industry is cruel and you're going to be a guy with a podcast again in a couple years. And you know what everyone's going to do? Show you this clip of you whining on TV about podcast guests. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Kedric Golston, the, of course, Washington legend, played 11 years in the NFL, joins us at 5:30, but 5 o'clock means it's time to bring in an expert on the day's top story. The pending matchup with the Bills is that, so let's hit it. It's time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story, from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Today, my pleasure to welcome in Matt Bové, who is the host of It's Always Game Day in Buffalo, the take command of Western New York, if you will. He's also the sports director at the ABC affiliate up in Western New York. Matt, how are you, sir? Good to talk to you for the second straight day.
Good to talk to you as well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Had a great time on your pod. And actually, we had your co-host, Al Capaccio, on Take Command this morning, which means you get the radio duty in the afternoon. So let's just start super broad with this game. The idea that when this, if you think back to May when the schedule came out, everyone up there is probably like, easy win. Go into that one 2-0. Hopefully, if we can get past Aaron Rodgers in week 1, and then the Commanders, nothing to worry about. What's the vibe in Buffalo this week with the Bills at 1-1 and the Commanders coming in at 2-0?
I feel like there's a lot of pressure on the Bills this week because I agree with what you said earlier in the year, even just a couple weeks ago. I think most Bills fans would have circled this game on the schedule and said, okay, that's a win, and it should be a pretty easy win. But now, after what we saw from the Bills week 1, that they are not immortal and that the Commanders are 2-0, they're the team with the better record, I think Bills fans are a little bit nervous because they know they probably should win the game, but might not feel confident that they will win the game. That's kind of how I'm approaching this game, too. I think the Bills are a better team, but I don't think the Bills are so much of a better team that if they go in there and they don't play great or even well, that they're going to escape with a win. So I think I probably feel the same way as a lot of people here, where it's like, yeah, the Bills should win, but will they win?
Right. So that's going to, in part, depend on the health of a couple of key pieces. What do we know about Leonard Floyd's ankle injury and some of the other key guys like Micah Hyde was missing practice earlier this week. What's the latest on their health? I know you spent most of the day watching players skate around as the Sabres, like the Capitals here, were doing their opening skate today. But what can you tell us about the health of some of the key defensive pieces for the Bills?
So both Leonard Floyd and Micah Hyde have said that they will play and that they intend to play. I think this is one of those situations where the players definitely want to be out there. The Bills might have to hold them back, though, and kind of protect them from themselves. I do think Micah Hyde will definitely play. Leonard Floyd, a bit more up in the air just because it is an ankle injury. The fact that he was out there today for Thursday's practice is a good sign for them. But I think they want to just be extra cautious with him, especially because they're still waiting for Von Miller to come back. Leonard Floyd has brought a lot of juice to this Bills defensive line as a rotation that they have not had in a while. So I think that if he is missing, that would be a huge loss for the Bills. But I think right now it's trending in the direction that both of those guys will probably be on the field Sunday.
Do you have confidence, though, that they will actually be themselves? Because I think that the idea of this front is pretty good. Like Gregory Rousseau has been pretty good through 2 games, but he's been inconsistent in his career. Ed Oliver has been really great through 2 games, inconsistent through his career. Floyd is a guy that makes both of their lives easier. If he's pretty blockable because he's hampered, like how does that affect Rousseau? How does that affect Oliver?
I think that it would definitely impact them, but I don't think that they would put, let's say Leonard Floyd is 80%. I don't think they're putting him out there if he's not at least close to 100%, just given what their expectations are for the entire season. So to me, like if those guys are on the field, they are pretty close to full speed ahead. I know that there's always injuries in the NFL. Every guy is playing through something in some capacity. It would definitely, though, if he's not playing Leonard Floyd, for example, if he's not playing close to 100, if he's only 50%, that makes their rotation a lot more manageable for the Commanders' offensive line, just because even though it's been productive, it's not incredibly deep. It will be when Von Miller comes back, but right now, after Rousseau and Floyd, you're not really scared by guys like A.J. Epinesa, by Shaq Lawson. Totally fine, serviceable, rotational players in the NFL, but not guys who you really have to probably game plan against and be overly concerned that they could wreck the game. Now, I will say, Greg Rousseau, inconsistent in his career, not so far this year, and that dates all the way back to the start of training camp. He has been a guy that here on the beat people have thought was going to turn into a legitimate NFL, like big-time player this season, and so far he has. Even when he's not getting after the quarterback, he is making big plays. His play in the run game was already very polished, how he defends the run, and now that he's becoming a more productive pass rusher on top of that, he's a guy. He's somebody who I think a lot of people are going to learn about in the next couple weeks.
Anthony, this is why we do this. This is why we have this segment. This is why we call it Not My Beat, because we have someone else who's on the beat of the thing, and they tell us things like, hey, on the beat up here, people have been saying this, and then we seem really smart, and our audience gets smarter. Yep. Anthony, it's working. It took us, we're a year and a half into the show, but we got someone who said the thing exactly that we've been kind of scheming on the low the entire time.
Hey,
I'm glad that I could help you guys with that.
It takes time sometimes.
Yeah, it's just been a slow build till that moment about Greg Rousseau, who had that one coming. Anyway, Matt Bové is our guest. He is the sports director at the ABC affiliate up in Buffalo. He is also the host of It's Always Game Day in Buffalo, a fine Odyssey Sports podcast production. So if you want more from the Bills side of it, definitely check them out this week. Okay, so here's another one for you, Matt. I don't think you've probably ever been asked a question prefaced with, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Eric Bieniemy this morning. But I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Eric Bieniemy this morning, and that is, what kind of difference does Matt Milano make on this defense? Because most NFL defenses are just trying to survive at linebacker. San Francisco has the luxury of having Fred Warner. There's like 1 or 2 other dudes in the league that are like super duper special 2-way run pass defenders. Milano's one of them. How does it help their defense?
Wow, what an answer you got from Bieniemy about Milano.
Oh, man.
He over that guy. What a soundbite.
Hey, well, the funny thing is, he gave you guys gold in terms of just loving up a Milano. Didn't answer my question a lick, because my question was, how does it affect your offense? And he didn't give me any schematics. But he did say a lot of nice things about Matt Milano.
Matt Milano's a freak. I think Matt Milano has become a guy that a lot of people know about around the NFL. But even then, the praise that he is being given by, the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders or people around the NFL, it's still not nearly enough at just how dynamic he is. Matt Milano has played alongside Tremaine Edmonds for the last several years. Tremaine Edmonds leaves in free agency, goes to Chicago, signs a huge deal. The entire time they played together, Matt Milano was the better player. But Tremaine Edmonds got the better numbers, and he picked up all the tackles, and he was, a first-round pick, so everybody around the league knew about Tremaine Edmonds. But that entire time, Matt Milano was the one who was making the game-changing play, who was wrecking an offensive game plan because he is so rangy and covers so much of the field. He's so good and knowledgeable about when he needs to, jump up into a play, when he needs to step back. He just does everything so well, and it's so impressive for a guy who's still relatively young in his career. He is, now a veteran. He's been around for enough, but he's still got a lot of tread on those tires. Matt Milano is legitimately the third best player on the Buffalo Bills. When Von Miller comes back, maybe you could say he's fourth, but right now the only players who are more impactful than him are Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. After that, Matt Milano is the heartbeat of the defense and is a really big reason why this team has had some success in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it is why they've been able to sustain as Poyer and Hyde have fallen off a little bit. They're still very, very good. Obviously, Tre'Davious White on the outside. There's a lot of good players, but Milano is the best of the bunch. I would definitely agree with you on that. As for those other two guys, the Allens, Josh, and the Diggs, Stephon, you've gotten to watch Allen grow and mature. What is the 2023 version of Josh Allen? What elements of kind of the question marks at the start of his career still remain that are potential opportunities for the Commanders to win on Sunday?
Okay, so the Josh Allen 2023 is kind of what coaches want Josh Allen to be, and I think sometimes that's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. I think sometimes it forces him into making smarter decisions that he wouldn't always make, but I also think sometimes it forces him into think a little bit too much and focus less on just being a freak athlete and reacting to something and going out and making the ridiculous play. The Josh Allen experience will always be the most amazing plays for the good reasons and then for the bad reasons. But you can't have one without the other. Everybody wants to turn Josh Allen into something that he's never going to be. They want him to make the spectacular play but avoid the plays that lead to turnovers. Well, one means you get the other, and that's always going to be the case. So Josh Allen right now is a little bit more of like a refined version of, hey, maybe the good won't be as crazy impressive, but it can still certainly be enough to win a lot of games. But the bad won't come back to bite you in the butt as much. That did not happen week one. And everybody was just kind of going, what's happening? We spent an entire summer talking about this. Well, then he responds in week two with an AFC Offensive Player of the Week, and he was really, really good. Basically, he was elite again. So Josh Allen, it just kind of depends on the week. He's absolutely good enough to win any single game that he plays in, and the Bills always have the benefit of the doubt of having that guy who is a game changer. So I think right now, honestly, the Commanders are getting him at a bad time because he's only a week removed from a really bad game. And usually when he does that, which has been, every couple weeks or every couple months for the last 4 years, he responds with a month where he plays absolutely lights out. So I was not surprised to see it against the Raiders, and I honestly think that will continue for the foreseeable future.
The question I would have about his performance against the Raiders is, how do I want to phrase this? He was so efficient with the football. He's pretty quick to get rid of it for long stretches of that game. He still does hold the ball at times for a long time. But, he's now at the point where between the two games, he leads the NFL in completion percentage after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
How much of that is, freakish physical talent versus accelerated / elevated, I guess the word I'm looking for, elevated decision-making?
I think it's elevated decision-making, and I also think it fits into the box of what they've wanted to do the last couple weeks, and I think a lot of that will continue this week against Washington because in matchups where they think that they have the worst not the worst offensive line, but in matchups when they're going against a strong defensive line like New York and then I almost said Oakland, like Vegas with Max Crosby, you want to make sure that those are not players or positions that can take over a game. So they're kind of just protecting Josh from himself, and they're like, hey, dude, get the ball out of your hands in 2 seconds. Let the playmakers go do your thing. When they give you an opportunity, take that because we know that you can. So I think we're going to see a lot of that this week as well. I don't think they want to let Chase Young or Montez Sweat or Payne take over a game. I think they want to make sure that does not happen. And the easiest way for them to do that as an offense is just getting the ball out of Josh's hands and getting it to all of these different weapons. I mean, the Bills' weapons are still not world class, but they are so much better than they have been in years past. For the last couple of years, like, they had to bring back, like, Cole Beasley, who they let walk because they needed somebody, and John Brown. And they had all these guys that weren't even good enough to make other teams this training camp. This year they have, like, legitimate options, which I think helps them with that specific kind of game plan.
So let's go there. Then I want to circle back to the O-line. Like, who do they have that folks should be wary of besides Stephon Diggs? Obviously very familiar with Diggs around here, grew up around here, he a Terp, etc. But what do they have besides Diggs? I think the other name a lot of people know because he's made so many high-profile plays at this point is Gabe Davis. But you know, obviously they've got a pair of Daltons at tight end. What else are they working with, and how have those pieces been integrated so far through preseason, training camp, and ultimately these first two games?
So far, I would say you kind of hit on the big ones. It's Diggs, and then after that, it's Davis. Davis is still their best vertical threat. He is really, really good. His depth of reception is crazy just because they basically do two things with him. They use him to block, or they have him just run down the field, and we're like, we'll hit you over the top. So those are their two top options. They're incorporating Kincaid into the offense more and more every single week. And Dawson Knox has been on the injury report the last couple of days. Their tight end who they've had for the last 4 years. So I think this is a big opportunity for Kincaid to kind of really, really shine and show that he's able to carry like the number one workload for a tight end. After that, though, it's really the running backs. And this has not been a running team for a lot of years, and a lot of people have criticized the Bills' inability to run. Well, they now look like they have somebody who's a lot more dynamic than anybody that they've had since really LaShawn McCoy, because James Cook is just a really shifty, effective runner. And then when you add in the other pieces, like Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, as your 2 and 3 are really strong options, especially because they all have different skill sets. James Cook, you can use in the passing game, but you can also turn around and hand the ball to him. Damian Harris, if you're by the goal line or you're inside the 2, you're going to hand it to him. The Bills have struggled inside their own 5-yard line for as great as their offense has been. So he was kind of their solve there. And then Latavius Murray is just your hybrid of somebody who can do a little bit of everything. He's the oldest running back in the NFL, but he certainly does not play like that. After that, Deontay Hardy is a guy who they think can be a bigger contributor than he has been. And then Trent Sherfield, they signed for Miami. He spent some time in San Francisco as well. He is somebody who eventually will make an impact and will eventually make a big play. It just has not happened yet. He's their third wide receiver, and he does not even have a catch so far this season, which is ridiculous because isn't that not crazy? And how about this? In their last game, they had 9 different players catch a pass. Trent Sherfield was not one of those 9. So eventually, I always say, like, Trent Sherfield is going to have a game where he has 2 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. It's going to happen at some point. It just hasn't happened yet. So keep him kind of in the back of your mind as you're waiting for the Bills offense to do something, because eventually it's going to happen.
So we'll just mark that clip, and if it happens this weekend, we'll just sit here and cry and listen to it on repeat and talk about how smart Matt Bové is. I got 2 more questions for you, Matt. Matt Bové is the host of It's Always Game Day in Buffalo, our sister podcast in the Odyssey Network for the Bills, as well as a sports director up at Channel 7 in Buffalo. So let's go back to the O-line first. Obviously, whenever a team is facing the Commanders, that is top of the scouting report. Like, how is your O-line? Because this D-line is sick. How do you think that matchup shapes up for Buffalo, both, personnel-wise, and you've touched on this a little bit already, but their ability schematically to protect Josh Allen?
Advantage Washington, but probably not as big of an advantage as you may think, because the Bills' offensive line has played a little bit better than I think we expected them to. A lot of that has to do with their right tackle, Spencer Brown. Spencer Brown, really inconsistent. First year in the NFL, awesome. It was like, okay, the Bills have found their new right tackle. Then he got injured and never really looked the same. The Bills were adamant that it was his job and that they thought that his poor play was because of the injury and not because of who he actually is as a player. And he did an outstanding job against Max Crosby. Basically, Max Crosby did not impact the game at all. And I think if you're the Bills, that's one of the biggest reasons why you won, and it was so lopsided. Left tackle Deion Dawkins, good player, above average NFL player, not quite elite, but certainly not bad. Mitch Morris in the middle has just kind of solidified everything since he got here. And then the 2 guards One of them was actually a rookie, Osiris Torrance. He was a second-round pick, just came into training camp and flat out won the job, and he did it against somebody who's actually pretty good. Ryan Bates probably starts on a lot of teams, but Osiris Torrance won that job. And then Connor McGovern, this will only be his third game with the Bills, came from Dallas, has been good up to this point. You know, it's one of those things where, like, if you're not noticing him on an every down basis, that's probably a good thing, especially given the defensive lines that they've played. So I still think that that's an area where Washington can try and come in here and, like, you know, wreak havoc. But I do think the Bills' offensive line should be up to the task, just given who they've played. I mean, the Jets' defensive line, Quentin Williams is a freak, and Max Crosby's really good. Washington has more people, but I don't know if any of them are to the level of Quentin Williams or Max Crosby.
If they do, it's Allen and Payne inside, or the level of Quentin Williams, which, you know, the way Payne's played the first 2 weeks, he's real close. And I also, somewhere in the deep recesses of my mind, feel like John Allen has had a day against Connor McGovern somewhere in the past when they were in Dallas, but I don't know where that game is, and so I'm just going to say that out loud and hope that I'm right. All right, last thing for you is kind of the mindset mentality. This is some level of full circle here, but after the Washington game for Buffalo, Miami comes to town. Miami is a bad matchup for the Bills with how fast they play. Obviously, division rival. They've played some pretty epic games over the last couple of years. They are 1-1, and the threat of going to 1-2 certainly feels like it should keep them focused on this week. But what's the mentality in terms of focus, knowing that large game against Miami is looming a week later?
I think one of the reasons why this Bills team has been to the playoffs so perennially the last 5-6 years is because that is not an issue. I don't think they are ever looking ahead of an opponent or looking down on opponents. Sure, they slip up at games that they probably shouldn't lose, but I never think it's because they're looking ahead. And I think that has a lot to do with Sean McDermott, which is, you know, a lot to do with Ron Rivera, essentially, and then Andy Reid, and whatever branches of that coaching tree are still going strong. So I don't really think they're looking past Washington. I think they had their wake-up call very early in the season when they lost to Zach Wilson for the second straight season, and we're like, what are we doing? Like, we cannot let this happen. So I don't think there's any even aspect of them looking ahead or overlooking anybody. I think they know they're going into Washington and will have a really tough matchup. All of that being said, though, the Bills legitimately believe they are one of the best teams in the NFL, and they think that if they play their game, there are very few teams that can beat them. And I don't know if I'm maybe as confident as they are, not specifically about this matchup, but just about like their entire outlook for the season. But I think they're pretty close to that. When they're humming, when Josh Allen is doing his thing and the defense is what they are, they're a really, really tough team to beat.
No, I think that's fair, and especially with Allen because, you know, Mahomes is the best quarterback I've ever seen play the sport. You know, he's got to keep doing it to be able to be called the GOAT over Brady. Longevity playing a big factor there, but on any given day, Allen might be the one dude who I've seen that go, yeah, that guy could be better than Mahomes on a given day, which just tells you how talented Josh Allen is. Matt Bové covering the Bills up in Buffalo on television. And then for us here at Odyssey, where he is the host of It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Matt, you coming down for the game this weekend? I know it's a Buffalo-Washington double because the Sabres are opening the preseason at the Capitol Sunday night, a thing I learned from your co-host Sal Capaccio earlier today.
Yeah, and you know what? Really poor planning by the NHL because that game's at 2 o'clock. If you could have put that game at, I don't know, 6 o'clock, I could have tried to do the double dip. But no, I am coming. But, you know, I'm a little bit concerned because I keep seeing that there's going to be, like, terrible weather. Yeah. So I'm actually now thinking about flying in tomorrow as opposed to Saturday. So I don't exactly – when I get off the phone with you, I'm going to get on the phone with American Airlines and figure out what exactly I'm doing here.
All right. Well, keep me in the loop. If you're in town, happy to play host. It'd be great to meet you in person after the amount we've talked into microphones the last couple of days. And hopefully I'll see you not rain-drenched at the stadium on Sunday, if not before.
Beautiful. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me today, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's Matt Bové, everybody. A true delight here on The Hoffman Show. Anthony, I told you after what I tell you when I got done doing his pod yesterday. I was like, we got to have that guy on the show. He's great.
Yep, and he really was great.
And Sal Capaccio, his co-host, is a legend up there in Buffalo. He was great on Take Command. We'll play that for you tomorrow. So, like, really, we're just winning here. We're just doing we, Anthony, are doing a great job.
Yes, we are, sir.
And you know what else is good guest booking?
What else?
Kedric Golston.
Yes, sir.
You know when he is?
I think he's next.
He is next. They tell us we should not really engage in certain parts of the content process. We should definitely post our content. We should tease our content. Hey, tell the people when things are happening on the show. Put that out there on social media. Then make sure you share the content afterwards. But definitely do not engage with the people who comment on it. It's the deepest, darkest underbelly of the internet. No. Do not read the comments. But every single week, 5:30 on a Wednesday, what do we do, Anthony Haney?
We read
Yep.
those comments, baby.
I'm so glad that you gave us a really good one there, because next week we're going to have a fancy new intro for this. We just got the big voice guy, old Jim Cutler, to do some stuff for us. And in my head, the fancy intro includes Anthony going, read those comments, and he just gave me the material I needed to work with. He didn't even know that. You didn't know that, Anthony. Tell the people you didn't know that.
I did not at all.
But next week, you bet your bottom dollar that you're going to see it. It's a running bit on the show, but also like an actual thing. I'm trying to learn French. My wife and I are going to Paris next year for the Olympics, so I'm trying to learn French. It's incredibly difficult. I'm very bad at it. Tips for someone learning French. You did the reverse. For people that don't know, you started as a French speaker, and I was reading on Wikipedia, so I don't know if this is true, but also Haitian Creole, first two languages, and then had to learn English, which I know is very, very difficult to learn when it's not your native language. French, English, they don't seem compatible. What's your tip for me as I try to learn French?
I would say watch movies in French with English subtitles. That's what I did. I watched a lot of movies in French, but I had the English. No, I watched a lot of movies in English with the French subtitles. So like movies, music, it's kind of something that's like easy, like on the brain. It's not too much information, but you can still enjoy it, and you can see the conversation, because that's the hardest part. Learning like a little word, like to say like, hey, my name is this or whatever, that's easy. But holding a conversation, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, right now I'm really just trying to master, like, I'm American, do you speak English? Because I think in Paris I can get away with that.
Yeah, so je suis américain, et je ne parle pas en français.
See, even the way you said that is not the way Duolingo says to say that. So I'll just have to come back to my new French tutor, Benjamin Sejus. BSJ, appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Sure.
It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Huge thanks to Matt Bové. Great just joining us for Not My Beat. Andrew Catalon, who'll be on the call for CBS, joins us at 6:15. But right now, it's our pleasure to welcome back to the show. I played over a decade in the league. It's Kedric Golston. Ked, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, Craig. And yourself?
I am doing well. I am doing very well. It's a very exciting time, obviously, to be talking about Washington football. And I assume it's an exciting time to be an alum. There's going to be over 175 alums back in town this weekend. I know our guy Zoe's coming back. I'm sure you'll see him. And I'm just curious for you, before we dive into the actual football, since that fateful day, July 20th, when Josh Harris bought the team, what's been your experience as an alum, especially in the area, compared to what it was previously? And, how has it lived up to your expectations?
Yeah, well, I think, the whole DMV area is excited. You saw people like Riggins back in the building, Champ Bailey. A lot of people didn't really – Champ hadn't been around in 15 years. So to get those guys back here, that was huge parts of this organization. It's been great. And then, starting off the season 2-0, what else more could you really ask for? But I think, Josh Harris, Magic, the rest of them, Rails, they've been out and about in the community. They've been accessible. And that's really all you can ask for, that they're real people, and they're in the community talking and having a good time. And it just feels, a little bit more like a family atmosphere from the ownership standpoint. That's no, indictment on Dan. It's just, calling it like it is. They've been a part of the people. Josh Harris has sat in the stands in preseason games, walked around. And so that's exciting when you can really reach out and touch these people.
Yeah, the sitting in the front row thing I thought was actually genuinely hilarious. It's almost like, obviously Josh Harris knows that I'm saying this very tongue-in-cheek, but it's almost like someone forgot to tell him, like, hey, man, this isn't the NBA. You don't sit front row. They got a nice fancy suite up there. Like, that's just how we do things. I've literally had never seen an owner do that before. They're always in the box. That was crazy.
Yeah, no, and to be quite frank, those aren't really good seats. You see a lot of back of helmets and things of that nature. But, it speaks to just his awareness of, wanting to be out there, maybe wanting to feel what it's like to sit, in the front row of a football game. And so, who knows what perspective he's trying to get, and it could be something as innocent as, hey, give me front row seats like they do up at the Sixers, or, he generally wanted to get a feel for what the sideline was, what the operation was, so on and so forth. So he's obviously a sports guy. He's done a great job with the other two franchises he owns. So I'm excited, not only for this week, but for what the future looks like. And so it's an exciting time to be a Burgundy and Gold fan.
One other guy that I want to show a little love to in this that I think you can shed light on far better than I can is Tim Hightower. Tim has been in charge of alumni relations for Washington for a long time at this point. And there was a lot of folks that he laid groundwork with that were like, I'm not doing anything while Dan's there. And that work seems to have already paid off with as we mentioned, 175 alums coming back this weekend. I'm sure you know Tim well. What has he meant to the franchise, and how, the reconnection that has been made so quickly, how much of that is a credit to Tim Hightower?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from an organizational standpoint, they gave Tim the resources and the opportunity to go out there and reach back out. Tim, from the moment he got that job, got on the phone, was reaching out to any and everybody that played here, just trying to reconnect us as a whole. And so, he's done a great job, you know what I mean? And I'm excited to see what him and his staff are going to do in the future. But, you got to take your hats off to the leadership, and the rest of them for giving him the opportunity to be able to reach out to the alumni and get them back in the building.
Kedric Golston with us here on the Hoffman Show. All right, Ked, let's talk some ball. And, everyone loved to point out the 3-and-out by Deron Payne to start the second half, if you will, against Denver. But I think you can speak to this at a far higher level, obviously having played in the trenches. we joked that, I could have been playing safety on those 3 plays and it wouldn't have made a difference. And Duran was so impactful that part is true. But how much of what a guy like Duran is able to do in that sequence is due to the fact that he's playing next to John, he's playing next to Montez, he's playing next to Chase? How do you see those 4 already working together, especially against Denver when Chase was out there for the first time?
Well, when you game plan for a defensive line, normally you have a featured guy, right? And so you kind of build your protection, you build your run game around, that particular guy, right? And in Washington's case, you have guys that not only have the pedigree and the draft status, but these have been guys that have shown that they can take over games at any given time. You know what I mean? So if you're not running to Payne, you're running to Allen. If you're not running to Sweat, you're running, to Young and whoever else has been in that position over the past, games and last season. So it's really impressive to see that sequence of plays because he gave you everything you would want out of a D lineman. And that's what I really think is special about this group is, we all kind of tout that sack, right? That's how we determine production and how good a defensive lineman is in the modern day NFL. But these guys are not only elite pass rushers, especially in the interior, but they play the run as good as anybody in the league. And at any given time, they're able to create an explosive play, whether it be a tackle for a loss, a batted ball, a sack. And so they really don't have any weakness in their game. And so to see him just not only, just like you said, he just took over that whole series and nobody else, it didn't really matter what anybody else did. So from a coaching standpoint, you love to have those type of guys in your room. Not only great, football players, but guys that you don't have to worry about off the field and you can genuinely see loves playing the game of football.
The other thing that I think is interesting about that series in particular is they're in that Cinco front. They've got 5 down, and I'm curious to get your perspective on that as a guy who played a lot of nose tackle in 3-4 defenses, which are not too far away from what that Cinco front winds up looking like. Often, sometimes you got guys in the 3-4 and 2-point stances versus in the Cinco. They might have their hand in the dirt. But, and obviously you can split it differently between, 3 techniques, 1 technique, 6 eyes, 4 eyes, all this kind of super technical stuff that matters at a high level. But I'm curious, when you watch that front, how much does it remind you of the stuff that you would see as a 3-4 nose tackle and especially how offenses try to attack it?
Well, definitely. I mean, the only really difference in the 3-4 from just like a base Okie alignment is instead of it you being a 4-eye inside shoulder of the tackle, you're a 3 technique outside shoulder of the guard. And so, for one, why wouldn't you want to have your best players out there on the field, right? So your defensive line has a ton of productive. So that, you should have those guys all out there at the same time. But then specifically from a defensive lineman standpoint, you really can't be wrong if you're vertical going up the field. Because if you're a 3 technique in Payne's case, right, and you get on your track and you penetrate up the line, square, violent hands, knocking that guard back, even if you get reached a little bit, you have the 0 technique that can just fold over top of you. You know what I mean? And so if you get scooped, you got another big body there to help you stop and defeat that block. And so it's a great front to play in as a defensive lineman because there's really no true double team angles for the offensive lineman to have, right? So if they double team you, they're leaving a huge gap for the defensive end or the linebacker to run through. So it really frees you up just to, simplify the game and let me just get on my train track, go vertical, violent hand, square, and whatever comes in front of me, I'm going to hit and be disruptive. So, you always want to be in that front as a defensive lineman. It's the 3 techniques with a 2-eye that, you got to play in them, but at the same token, you understand that the offensive line has angles of double team. But in that Cinco front or bear front, like a lot of the league calls it, you take away those angles, and it's hard to run against.
Kedric Golston with us, dropping knowledge here on the Hoffman Show. Behind them, you got Cody Barton and Jamin Davis. Jack Del Rio said earlier today he's a lot happier with how those guys performed in week 2, specifically Barton week 1 to week 2. But he's also very pleased with how Jamin Davis has come along. What have you seen from Jamin so far in the last season and then certainly through these first 2 games this year?
I think a guy that just, playing inside linebacker at any level is a hard position, right? Like, you have no boundary, you have no side. You're in the middle of the field. You have things coming from both sides. You know what I mean? Run games in the NFL can be a lot more complex than they are at the college game. But what you kind of seen Jamin do is, in him starting to make some plays, is to just stop thinking about everything and just go run and tackle. You know what I mean? Like, the reason we were super excited about you is because your athletic ability, right? So use that while you still got it, and you'll learn and grow into the linebacker that we think you can be. But, and that's what I've seen. I've seen a guy that feels more comfortable. He understands what the front looks like in front of him. And then ultimately, he's just using his natural gifts to go out there and run and make plays. And as far as Barton is concerned, these guys are going to become more comfortable the more they play together. You know what I mean? And that's really the exciting part about it. And they have the luxury of playing behind one of the best groups in the National Football League. And so I expect them to grow together. The speed's there, the athleticism is there. So there's really nothing, any weaknesses except, hey, let's just get these guys more reps. Let's get them more experience. Let's let them feel more comfortable is what we're trying to do from a defensive scheme standpoint.
So, Ked, something that you said there about Jamin and, hey, stop thinking about it, just made me kind of have this vision of a Hard Knock scene, in my head of, he gets pulled into the linebacker coach's office and they're talking about it, and there's music playing, it's dramatized, and I think that's how a lot of us tend to think about some of these things, because we watch a Hard Knocks, we watch some of these others, whether it's like a Drive to Survive, Formula One on Netflix, and we see kind of the drama and the human side of the ups and downs of a sports season. And when it's, edited creatively and set to music, it feels very dramatic. And, we spend all this time on the radio. I got however many hours I do a week, 15 hours a week of radio that I'm talking about it. But to live it, to be in those emotions of a season, especially, when you're a young guy like a Jamin Davis, what is that like? And then what's it like to be a veteran who's seen a lot of things before and maybe handles it a little bit differently later in your career?
Well, I think, whenever you've been around it long enough too, Craig.
Yeah.
Winning in the National Football League is really fun, right? Everybody feels better, right? The person that, lets you in the building, the cook, the grounds people, the media, it's just a whole totally different vibe when you're winning. And so from a young guy's perspective, when you have success and you've kind of done it, it hadn't really been easy as far as you had to come back in both times in the fourth quarter. You kind of build a trust not only with your teammates but from the coaching staff of what we're doing is actually working. So when you get out there in preparation and in meetings, your antennas are up even more because you want to learn. All these guys want to be great. You know what I mean? This is how they feed their families. It's a childhood dream. And they understand with the success that they're having early on in the season that, these coaches are putting me in position to make plays. Is it perfect all the time? No. But if I can continue to get better, I continue to make plays. And for the veterans that's been around, you just want to keep it going and keep everybody focused on saying, hey, last week was great. We celebrated. Let's put it to bed and let's continue to push forward, because at the end of the day, what you did last week really doesn't even matter in this league. And so it's a week-to-week league, game-to-game league, and from a player standpoint, play to play. You know what I mean? And I think, don't chase perfection, chase improvement. And if you continue to prove each and every day, which I think that they're doing, offensively and defensively, I can't wait to see him play Buffalo this week, because I think it's going to be a great game and it's going to be exciting to see. And I'll be there because it is alumni weekend.
Yes, no doubt. You and about 174 of your closest friends, and about 65, 70,000 of whatever the next ring of friendship is for Kedric Golston. He's
Absolutely
with us here on the Hoffman Show. Just a few more quick minutes with Ked. When you watch Sam Howell play, obviously that is the biggest discussion in town. Is he a franchise guy? It's way too early. And maybe even, Ked, you could talk about this from a defensive side. Like, the part of the reason it's too early is because defensive coordinators don't even have tape on this guy yet. So what is it like, playing a guy who's new to you versus a guy that you have film on, and how does that affect how you look at Sam Howell so far?
Well, I was a fan of Sam in college. You talk about a guy who, did it through the air when he had the weapons, and then when it was just kind of him when the coverage were bare down there in Carolina, he put that team on his back. He never complained. He never You never saw that kind of bewildered look on his face after in post-game press conferences when he was in college. So what you had is you knew a guy that had played football at a high level since he was a freshman there. So from a mental makeup, you like to think, he had what it took. And then so getting book on a young quarterback, everybody's like, well, it's 4 games to see what they can do. I'm not worried about that because of Coach Bieniemy. You know what I mean? It's his job to anticipate, hey, we're doing this. Defenses are going to counter like this. This is our counterpunch. And so that's not on Sam. That's on the offensive coordinator. That's on his quarterback's coach and the offense to design things to understand, hey, this is a guy that can make all the throws. Arm talent is not one of his issues. Really the only weakness he has right now is experience. You know what I mean? And so the more experience he gets, the more defenses he sees, the better off he can be. But like any team and any, I believe, young quarterback, it's up to the offensive coordinator to put them in position to make those easy plays, to give them easy reads. And that just comes with game planning and understanding offense. And I have not a doubt in my mind that Coach Bieniemy and his staff are going to put Sam in a great position to go out there and continue to be productive even after these first set of 4 games and the next set of 4 games, because you're talking about a guy that's been around great offense and Coach Bieniemy for a long time.
No question. I love that answer, and I think it's so true. All right, last thing for Kedric Golston here. And Kedric, I realize this question is laced with irony considering I'm the one asking it, and I am a fitness professional in the other part of my life away from microphones. But I think I have severely underrated the level of importance that physical fitness plays in football after watching this team play so far this year and knowing how much better or how much in better shape they are after the training camp at the pace that Eric Bieniemy put them in. Do you have experience of that in your career? Like a new coach comes in, does things differently, and based off of how training camp was, you just feel a certain way and are able to perform a certain way going into the season? Because like it's sports. Of course fitness matters, but you just kind of assume at this level like everybody's in peak condition. But after watching what this team has done and thinking about Andy Reid's success, maybe I underestimated it. What role does it play, and how do you think it's helping this team if you agree that it is?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, physical fitness, the tempo in which you practice, right? So we both know this, right? Practice has a certain intensity, right? And then the game is even amped up even more. And then we all talk about like playoff football that's even amped up even more, right? So good coaches and great training camps, you want to artificially create that intensity to make it. And we all talk about we need to go game speed, but it's up to the coaches to force and push that issue because the players know it's not a game. You know what I mean? And so when you can practice at that tempo and demand that type of effort, like especially now with all the monitors and stuff that they got hooked up to them, they know when a guy's running full speed. They know when he's, playing fast and when he's not. And so you get into games and now you're comfortable playing at that speed. And not only are you comfortable playing at that speed, you can do it longer because you've done it in 2.5-hour practices. You know what I mean? And so you've had to dig deep. And there's one thing that we know, and it doesn't matter if it's professional football, pickleball, or anything. When you get tired, things kind of really, seem to matter a little less, right? You lose focus, you get injured. But the better in shape you are, the harder you've pushed yourself in training camp and in practice, when you get in those moments late in the game or you're on a 12-play drive that you can push because you've done it and your body's prepared for it, and mentally it doesn't faze you because you're not tired, because you've put yourself in this situation throughout the week to be conditioned both mentally and physically for it. So it should go without saying, but I think we are seeing the benefits of Coach Bieniemy's tempo in training camp and the rewards that now they're 2-0.
Yeah, I've always just thought of it so much from the mental side and the preparation. And it's like, oh, I've seen that, or you get to run a certain number of plays, so like you get more mental reps. And it just, for whatever reason, just incredible blind spot for me, the literal physical part of it. By the way, are you playing pickleball these days, or was that a very random call out for you?
It's kind of random, but it is something that I want to get to. I used to be a huge racquetball player, right? And so, but I think now, in the age that I'm at now, maybe pickleball might be more my speed because I don't have to worry about balls bouncing off a couple walls coming back at me. But if anybody wants to teach me or go out and play, hey, I'm down.
Okay, I mean, I got a pickleball racket. I played once, but I used to play tennis a lot, and I've gotten back into that recently. But I think, Anthony, I think we should set this up. I think me, you, and Ked should go play some pickleball. Anthony, have you ever touched a pickleball racket?
Yes, I picked up one the other day.
Okay, so Anthony's fresh on pickleball. Ked's willing to try. I've played once, which somehow makes me the veteran in the group. Ked, we'll get this organized.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
All right. I'll see you, man. Thanks. That's Kedric Golston, everybody, with us here on The Hoffman Show. 11-year NFL veteran and pending pickleball enthusiast. When we get back, his former teammate, Logan Paulsen, has some just incredible story about one of their former teams. Actually, I'll say this. So our Take 5, which is what we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Take Command, the Thursday edition has turned into story time. We look at who the opponent is, and we tell some of our favorite stories about that opponent, whether it's the city, whether it's the team. I told a story about hanging out with Lorenzo Alexander after a game in Buffalo on this week's pod. You'll hear that. But also, it's kind of the Alfred Morris origin story, and it involves a preseason game against the Buffalo Bills. You do not want to miss this story. And I would go as far as to say, if you heard it because you actually listened to the podcast this morning, it's worth hearing again. It's that good of a story. That is next. And then Andrew Catalon, who is going to call the game for CBS this weekend, joins us at 6:15. Thursday Night Football, look ahead at 6:30. And then real things to wrap up the show. That's what we got left here on The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app.
You can listen to
How are you, and are you using the headphones that I sent you?
I am using the headphones that you sent me, so I'll not be pulled over. And I got to tell you, man, seeing the craziness coming out of Chicago today with the Justin Fields comment, with the DC abruptly resigning, it's just like giving me flashbacks to what this team used to be like. And I'm like, wow, I'm talking about football in a stadium? That feels odd.
Right. One, God, this call quality is just exceptional. So just, I got to say, I'm going to send you a clip later just so you can hear how clear you are. Two, we actually, so earlier in the show, we did a segment called This, That, and the Other Thing, and we wound up putting the Bears stuff in that. And yeah, it felt very oddly familiar, but also safely distant, which I think is good. All right, we got a lot to get to and not a lot of time. So first, let's...
Yes. James Smith-Williams just pulled up and honked at me. I'm on the radio with Craig Hoffman right now. Do you want to say something?
What's up, James?
How you doing, man?
What's up, James? Although you probably can't hear it because this is just in Sam's headphones.
Quick. Craig, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Feeling good. Just talking to Sam. Last time we did a hit with Sam, he put Matt Paris and Ben Standing on, so this is an upgrade.
Way better. Yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Definitely an upgrade.
All right, let's make sure nobody gets in trouble here. All right, James, drive home safely.
Thank you. You have a good one.
All right, goodbye. James Smith-Williams, everybody. I mean, that's been an ongoing bit.
Oh, okay.
I think Travis Kelce's got the best bit of all. He's just dating Taylor Swift. So, forget the lyrics. and then we got our guy Ian Eagle talking about Travis Kelce finding blank space in the end zone. Now, that's how you do it. By the way, I did follow up. For those of you that listened to the end of the show on Monday, we said we're going to have to investigate. Was that, did Noah Eagle feed Ian, his dad, the lyric? I texted Ian, I was like, we might have to have you on the show to do this. And he's like, there's nothing to investigate. I'm just a Swiftie.
Ooh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there goes the segment idea, Ian.
Did you see Jason Kelsey confirm the rumors, though?
Yes, he kind of did on WIP today, which is very silly. Jason, your podcast is very good and very successful. If you're going to confirm the biggest rumor in the celebrity world,
exactly,
don't do it on, do it on a radio show, obviously. Don't do it on a radio show. Do it on your own podcast, you moron.
Uh-huh.
I'm just kidding, Jason. You're definitely not a moron. Jason Kelsey, not a moron. It was just not the, why am I doing, let's keep going with the comments.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And it's a Thursday, which means we put out a fresh episode of Take Command today, and that our game preview episode is out tomorrow. So you can check that out. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to your podcast. We had the great Sal Capaccio on the podcast from Buffalo, and then obviously Logan's tape breakdown of the Bills. We also got into an interesting back and forth about Josh Allen, something that I was kind of noticing that Logan didn't fully agree with. And what happened was, instead of like old school sports talk radio, like trying to beat each other's heads in about who was right or wrong based off something that was like an inarguable fact, we kept talking about it, and eventually just like he helped me find the words to explain what I meant, which was kind of a fun thing to listen for. So check out the pod tomorrow morning if you want to listen to that. But on Thursdays on Take Command on the feed, which you can get anywhere you get your podcasts, we do story time about the opponent. So Buffalo/the Bills. And we got a couple of good ones, one from me, one from Logan, including the origin story of Alfred Morris. And lucky for you, you don't even have to go searching for it, because we're just going to let you hear it right now.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take 5 from Take Command. That's Logan Paulsen. He played 10 years in the NFL. I'm Craig Hoffman. I covered it on the beat for 5, which meant we both got to go to Buffalo, Logan. Obviously, Buffalo coming here this weekend, but your favorite Bills story. For me, it's one going to Buffalo and getting to hang out in a scenario that most reporters don't get to, thanks to a pretty special friendship.
Sure.
But what do you got from your playing days in Buffalo?
So one of my most vivid memories of Buffalo was that was a preseason game we went up there, and I think it was our first preseason game, right? So everyone's kind of nervous, and that was my second year in the league. So that was Robert's first year, that was Alfred's first year,
and Alfred 2012.
Yeah,
it's the year.
It's the year, and so yeah, I guess it was 12. And so like, I'm kind of like that rotational guy. Fred's still on the team, like there's a lot, and I'm like kind of hanging out on the sideline, just like, okay, this is gonna be cool. Get out here, play some football in a little bit. And you're watching the game, and Alfred had been in practice the whole thing, and he's like an undrafted 5th round guy, and he's good, but he like doesn't catch the ball that great, and he's big, but like in practice you don't really get to see him run the ball that well, and you're like, what's this guy's deal? And so he's the second back. I forget who was starting at the time, but he gets in, and it's like the first or second play of the game, and it's an outside zone to the left, and it's blocked okay, but Lance Briggs is directly in the hole. And so I'm like on the sideline, having my drinking some water, making sure I'm nice and warm, doing my high knees or whatever, getting ready to go in. And Lance Briggs was that dude at the time. This was like he was like Pro Bowl, peak of his powers. And he's unblocked in the hole. And I'm like, oh, this poor rookie is about to get killed right now. And he freaking hits that dude so hard, buckles his knees. Lance Briggs buckles his knees to the ground, runs directly over him and runs. It was like a 15-yard gain. And I remember thinking like, oh. And that was like the moment that the first sign of like Alfred Morris being like an excellent power runner like came into my vision, was like that moment. Because like, up to that point, like you just didn't see it from him. Like he couldn't catch a ball in practice. He couldn't, and then all of a sudden it's like, bow, one of the best linebackers in the league. He just flattened him. And I think it's always cool in the preseason specifically when you get to see opportunities like that of guys like kind of saying, like, I've arrived in the NFL, and obviously had a very productive 3 years after that. So.
All right, so here's the problem with that story: is Lance Briggs definitely did not play in Buffalo.
He did. He was in. Was it Chicago? Let me go back. It was somebody big. Let me look it up.
It was Chicago.
It was 12.
He was in Chicago so he could practice like a rush angle. Obviously, was here for
guy. And again, like I like you love him because he's such a nice dude. He worked. Watching him run for the rest of the year, like that's how he ran. He was just
I think he had 1,400 yards that year.
Physical dude, yeah, and a little bit of that scheme or whatever, but. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. And again, like I like you love him because he's such a nice dude. He works so hard, but to see it just pop off like immediately the first play, it was pretty spectacular. So
that's great. My Buffalo story is a bit more personal. Our guy Lorenzo Alexander, who obviously was here forever. family to me for sure. He's super tight with my guy Chris Gorez, and so I've gotten to know Zoe real well over the years. And I would work out with him when Chris would work him out in the off season. I'd be the poor sucker just running around trying to do an NFL wide receiver impression or whatever. To give Zoe. Oh yeah, no, I would work out with Zoe like on the field just to be another body. Like I wasn't good at it. Zoe played a little slow to start the year. Sorry to the Bills fans because he was out there covering me. Or I would have to play quarterback and just run away from him so he could practice like a rush angle.
What you guys would do?
Yeah, some of the stuff. It was more like, it's speed and agility work. It's not actual, like, it's not like Chris is out there coaching him up, but it's just to get the movement right.
That's a really interesting, like, this is my strength coach nerd, but that's a really cool, like, prep, because you don't do that a lot in, off-season conditioning, and having someone that can help you with that's pretty cool. So
yeah, to use the track and field term, I was the rabbit.
Yes, there you go.
I was just out there to be chased. And let me tell you, when Lorenzo Alexander, even though he's not going to hit you and he's not wearing pads, and neither are you, when he's running at you, you want to run away from the pocket as fast as you can. But that's a different story.
It's crazy because this is a little bit, this is going to be longer than 5 minutes. I got a Zoe story. So the thing about Zoe that was always crazy is we had a coach from Dallas come to our staff, and Zoe was still on the roster. And he goes, dudes were so afraid to block him. They would get like hamstring, like special teams guys who were like the toughest dudes ever would be like, I'm not playing this week because Lorenzo Alexander's out there. And you got to do that with him every single day. So look at you being all tough out there, Greg. Yeah, sorry.
Love it. I don't know if that was tough, but whatever. But Zoe, the night, just grade A plus human being. And so we're in Buffalo for the game, 20, whatever it was. I think it was 2019, which I know it's at that point, it's probably his last season. I don't know that the world at large knew that was going to be his last season. I didn't know at that point it was going to be my last season on the beat either. But afterwards we went and got dinner at this local Italian restaurant where apparently a bunch of the Bills players all go after the game. Like they know to expect them. They put him back in a nice big private room. And it was cool because it's the kind of thing that as a reporter, I'm never getting invited to that room. I guess there's some guys and women around the league that are reporters that go to that room for a story where they're there to be a part, to kind of gather information for the story, but everyone's seeing them as a reporter. I wasn't there as a reporter. I was there as Zoe's friend. And so it was cool because, all of a sudden Josh Allen walks in and Dawson Knox walks in, and they have no idea, obviously, remotely who I am. And that hey, be on your best behavior. There's a member of the media here. And obviously if something weird had happened, I wouldn't be telling the story because I was not there as a reporter, but those dudes were all just a grade dudes. Just, you could see the way they interacted with each other. You could see the way that they, said hi to Zoe's family and introduced themselves to me. And it was really cool. And you saw a young group at that time, and this is 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, Josh Allen and Dawson Knox and a lot of guys that are still there, just this is how they lived. After the game, they got together one big family, and Zoe's actually there with his gigantic family, his 4 kids and his wife, and I think an aunt and uncle or someone was there, and so we kind of had our own table in the room with the other long table full of Bills players, but it was really, really great to just kind of see that and the atmosphere after the game and how everybody was able to come together, and that family atmosphere of a team coming together. And that was kind of at the start of the Bills being really good as Josh Allen was starting to emerge. So I'll always remember that and think highly of those guys, just the
cool
way they interacted with each other. And seeing that was pretty cool, and always appreciate Zoe bringing me wherever I got to go with him, whether it was football field or an Italian restaurant somewhere in the suburbs of Buffalo. All right, that's it for Take 5 Storytime Thursdays. We'll see you tomorrow for a preview of the 2023 Bills and their matchup, of course, with the Commanders. Subscribe to the pod in between now and then, and we'll see you then on Take Command. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command. First, why don't you like it? It lets other people know that it was good, and then they should watch it too. And Logan, we have a new exclusive home for full episodes.
We do. 1067 The Fans YouTube page. Go check it out and please subscribe.
Yeah, do what Logan said.
Do it.
Very, very smart. So if you're getting into what you saw from the offense, 30,000 foot view, before we dive into Sam specifically and some of these protections and some of the plays themselves, like what did you take away from watching the tape?
Yeah, 30,000 foot view. I think again with stuff we talked about on the pod right after the game, like it's just how resilient the team was and the character of the team and their ability to kind of switch the tide there. 21-3 is a tough look. You get that fumble by Jamin, then you get a drive that's not the most pretty drive in the world. It's a little bit of a slogfest. Screen to Cole Turner ends up being almost a first down. They get the first down on a run by B-Rob, and they run that jet sweep to Curtis. Like that, again, it's like a little bit of kind of we're getting into the deep bag of trips. Then on fourth down, they get that amazing play to Logan Thomas when that hit, and you're just like, wow, that the turnover to that awesome character by the team, right? Then you come back out, the defense goes 3 and out, then you get a drive, and one of the best throws I've seen in a long time from anyone within this organization, that throw to Bates on that cover 2 shot. Like, oh my gosh, on a 3rd and 13 to kick a field goal, and all of a sudden it's 14-21 coming out of half. You get a stop by Deron Payne, 3 and out. I mean, I say Deron Payne, it's the defense, but Deron Payne. No,
you got to stop by Deron Payne. We were joking yesterday on the show. Michael Phillips was on with us, and literally, I was like, Michael, you and I could have played safety for Cam Curl and Derek Forrest, and that series would not have been any different.
Right. And so then great job by him. And again, you just like big moments, the big players stepping up in those moments. And then that next offensive drive is the Terry touchdown. And you're just like, holy cow. Like there was no time in between. It was like, you got the fumble by Jamin. That drive we score. 2-minute drive. Like it was like they had 55 seconds or something like that. They get points. 3 and out, points. And it's just like that is something I can't articulate how hard that is to do offensively, given the environment, given the conditions, given how that defense and the offense was playing in the first half, and then for them just to say like, no, we're not going to do this anymore.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And we are lucky enough for the third straight week on this radio show to get the play-by-play announcer of the Commanders game, who will call it on television on the show. And this week, that is Andrew Catalon from CBS Sports. Mr. Catalon, how are you, sir?
What's up, Craig? How are you, man?
I'm great. I'm talking about football in Washington. This is the best my life has been. Well, that's not true. I have things going on outside of football in Washington. But, I mean, professionally, this is the best my life has been for 8 years. What do you think I'm doing?
You know, it's funny because we get the newspaper and clippings sent to us every day. And when I first read the first batch of them this week, everything was about how the environment's different, sellout crowds, people are happy. I'm like, you know what? The clippings didn't read this way when I came to Washington for the Titans game last year. So it's nice to read these clippings.
Oh, God, what a game that was. That was the one, like, hey, maybe Carson's still, I don't know, is this a disaster? Hey, is De'Ami Brown good now? That game. Who could forget?
Yeah, that was the game.
Who could forget?
Was the one.
So let's start there though, because you obviously call games all around the league. That's the job. When you're a national play-by-play guy, which is the only kind that the NFL has on the television side. And when you compare what FedEx Field has been in all of your experiences coming here to most NFL stadiums, like where did it rank in terms of atmosphere? I mean, it's easy to be like, oh, it's the worst. I mean, was it? Is it in a category with a couple of others that are pretty nondescript? Like, what was FedEx Field like, and then what are you expecting it to be on Sunday?
I would say the times I've been there have been not memorable. I wouldn't rank it as the worst, but there was just nothing that really stood out to me about it. And, for all the reasons that we know. But I am really fired up for this game on Sunday. I mean, I think that Washington's comeback gives the game a little more juice. I do the Bills preseason games for the last 8 years, so I know them really well, and they are a legit good team. And I love what Ron Rivera said this week. He said it's a measuring stick game for them. And to me, it's an absolutely winnable game for the Commanders as well. I mean, Buffalo has looked a little bit uneven so far. I know they're the favorite, but I think that Washington, with the confidence they have, that they're absolutely going to give us a really good game and could win this game on Sunday.
I know at this point in the week, like obviously you haven't had the meetings with the teams yet and all that kind of good stuff, but obviously you and your crew have started to talk, and I'm particularly interested in the thoughts of your new partner, Matt Ryan, and his thoughts on Sam Howell. What have the discussions been around the Washington quarterback so far this week?
I don't want to speak for Matt because I haven't gotten in depth on Sam Howell, but what he did say, which I thought was interesting, is that when he's looking at this Buffalo defense, he sees what he used to go against in Carolina with Ron Rivera and with Sean McDermott. And, I think the Washington defense is an extension of that. So I'm really looking forward to not only hearing Matt's thoughts on Sam Howell, but also like how he would attack the defenses because he played them so many times when he was with Atlanta. I mean, Matt is really, he's only 2 games into this, but he gives you such a unique perspective since he's just off the field. And look, I can't, again, speak for Matt, but I'm impressed with Sam Howell. I mean, I watched the entire game last week. I thought he looked great. Some of those throws were big time. I think he's finally got some weapons around him. Brian Robinson running hard. I mean, I think there's a lot to like about this Washington team right now offensively.
Without question. And I think it's, one, we had Matt on the podcast this summer, and he was amazing. I'm lucky enough to do a podcast with one of his former teammates, which certainly helps. But that fresh off the field perspective, you're so right. And I think fans will get to see that if they haven't heard your crew call a game yet in the 2 games that you guys have had this season. It's really, really good. And I'm excited for everyone to get to hear it. But as far as the defensive thing, I think the irony is, Andrew, that the Buffalo defense is more of what Ron's defense used to be in Carolina than the Washington defense, because Jack Del Rio has taken such a big role, and it really is Jack's defense. But when you talk about this Buffalo defense, where would you rank it compared to some of these defenses they've had in past years? I've actually now done a couple of hits with Buffalo stations, and we've had some Buffalo folks on, and it seems like Milano's still what he is. This D-line, the opinions seem to be mixed, and it seems like people think the secondary may be a step slower than it used to be. Having called, and been around this team in the preseason, how would you rank this Buffalo defense compared to where it's been over the last 5 years since they've been on this run with Allen?
First off, I agree with you about Jack putting his own spin on the Washington defense. It's definitely not the same, but I think some of the principles are there, and I think it'll be interesting to hear Matt attack it. But there's no doubt that Del Rio has put his stamp on that D. As far as the Buffalo D, I kind of agree with what you just said. I mean, I think to me the big thing about them is they're a little bit deeper than they've been in the past, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're more talented than they were in the past. I mean, Leonard Floyd was a really nice addition for them. He's looked really good over the summer, and that's carried over early into the season. I think the back end, if you want to tell me they're a step slower, they're not going to tell you that. But yeah, I don't think that Tre'Davious White is back to where he was pre-injury yet. Poyer and Hyde are in their 11th year now. But I would never count those guys out. And, I think that when you got the head coach now calling the defense, which is the case with Sean McDermott, it's a little different. They're a little more attacking than they were in the past. They're going to send some more guys. It's the mindset seems to be a little different now with McDermott calling the plays. So that's one change from the past for sure for Buffalo.
Do you think also around this Bills team that there's kind of a greater sense of urgency that they haven't broken through yet? Like even Cincinnati, while they haven't won a Super Bowl, they've gotten there. And as those three teams, along with Kansas City, of course, being the other one, have had tremendous success and wound up battling in the playoffs, like what have you found is kind of the overall season theme, if you will, in Buffalo, having been around them in the preseason, and how is that impacting their season so far?
Yeah, I think that, you hear people say their window is closing. I don't think it's closed for sure. And closing is still a little strong. I mean, they're still a really good team. And Josh Allen, to me, is still an elite quarterback. They have some new wrinkles this year. This rookie tight end, Dalton Kincaid, he's going to continue to be more and more a focal point of their offense, in my opinion. Their offensive line is okay, and I think that's really, to me, the big key in this game Sunday is how does the offensive line hold up against the Washington front. But yeah, I mean, look, things change quickly in football, in the NFL. I mean, you're seeing it's hard to stay at the top. I had Cincinnati last week. I think they're going to have a tough time this year. I mean, I think it's hard to go to the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game and then just say, okay, we're going to turn the switch and do it again. And there's a little bit of that for Buffalo, but maybe more of a bad taste in their mouth because of the way their seasons have ended. So, I think it's still a motivated group. And to me, Craig, the big thing about Buffalo, they love being in the underdog role. Last year, even the year before, they were kind of a trendy pick. Now some people are saying, window's closing, Miami's good, all these other quarterbacks in the AFC. That feeds into what Sean McDermott wants to tell his guys, that, hey, people aren't picking us again. We're the underdog again. That's what the fans like. That's what this team likes. So I think that will help them this year.
Andrew Catalon, CBS Sports, with us here on the Hoffman Show. On the Washington side of it, you mentioned the key to the game could be Buffalo's offensive line versus this vaunted Washington front. Like, when you watch this group, there's four guys there, obviously. Is there one in particular that fascinates you or impresses you more than the others?
I mean, Daron Payne did something that I don't think I've seen in a long time in Denver. He had a personal 3-and-out. I mean, he forced a 3-and-out all by himself on one of the drives for Denver. That to me, jumped out at me. And I love what Montez Sweat said. He said it's, quote, an Olympic gold medal race to the quarterback. I think these guys push each other. Obviously, a couple of them are looking for contracts. I think it's a really, really talented, dangerous group that's going to make noise throughout the year.
And then last but not least, you kind of hint – well, I guess I got two more for you. One game-specific and then one kind of circling back all the way around to the environment side of it. But you said you think Buffalo is going to have a tougher time. Like, they're the favorite, but – they're going to have a tougher time than a lot of people think. You seem to sense a real opportunity for the Commanders here. Like, you're picking the game. I don't know how you feel about, making predictions on games that you're calling, or, you're calling the game. I don't know how you feel about making predictions on games that you're calling, but what kind of chances do you give Washington of actually doing this compared to maybe they'll keep it close, which seems to be the overriding national narrative this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are saying, oh, yeah, they're 2-0, but who have they beaten? What they did last Sunday in Denver, I know Denver is not going to be the 72 Dolphins. They're already not. But I still was really impressed by that. I think Howell's got a lot of poise. And I don't think this is the type of group that's going to be intimidated by being an underdog at home against a team that's had a lot of success. I think that Ron Rivera will have them in a position believing they can win. And I think that's half the battle. So, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you who's going to win the game, because if I knew that, I probably wouldn't be talking. I'd be in a better spot than calling the game. But I do think that it's going to be a good game. The weather could be a factor. I think that might help Washington a little bit. So, I think we're going to have a good one on Sunday.
Yeah. They give you those fancy CBS Sports famous coats. Do they give you like rain gear too with the CBS eye on it?
I'm pretty lucky where I'm usually undercover. It's the sideline reporter that has to fend for themselves a little bit. So hopefully AJ is well covered on the sideline, AJ Ross.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to Sean and Charlie and be like, hey, take care of our girl down there, because it could get nasty. And then last thing, I feel like, Andrew, last year when we had you on the show before that Tennessee game, like a lot of the Snyder stuff had obviously bubbled up at that point. And I remember asking you pointedly, like, how much of this is a story for you guys as whether it's during your open or during the game. Now that we're on the other side of that coin and you have 175 Washington alums coming back for this game this weekend, how much do you guys talk about the turnaround, the larger context of the game versus, just trying to stick to the game itself, especially when it's much happier to not have to just stick to the game than it was last year?
Well, I mean, based on what I've read and what I saw week one and just the feeling right now, I think the environment and the atmosphere is a part of the storyline. I mean, not as much as Josh Harris and what he's going to do with the team, more as, hey, we're in the game right now and this place is loud and Buffalo has to go to a silent count and they're jumping off, false starts. I mean, I think that could be a part of the game, and certainly that becomes part of the broadcast as well. But I'm just excited to go there for a game where I think that Buffalo always travels well, right? So there are going to be a lot of Buffalo fans there, but I think that there's going to be more Washington fans there for sure than there were last year when I was there for Tennessee. So kind of what I root for is a close game and a good atmosphere. And I've been pretty lucky the first two games, our crew. We were in Minnesota week one. I mean, that atmosphere is unbelievable. And then last week in Cincinnati was their home opener, a good crowd against Baltimore. So I think we're going to have another good atmosphere here on Sunday. We'll see what happens with the weather. But I think it's going to be a part of the broadcast because I think the fans are going to bring it.
Yeah, no, I certainly think so as well. I'm planning on going, so hopefully I'll see you at FedEx Field on Sunday.
I hope so, Craig. Always good talking to you, pal.
You as well. Thanks, man. That's Andrew Catalon with us here on the Hoffman Show. Another fine, Anthony. You know where he went to school. Where did he go?
He's a part of the the Syracuse Mafia.
That the Newhouse Mafia.
Good gracious.
Are we going to have to take away your degree?
Just haven't said it in so long. The Newhouse Mafia.
That is what he is a part of. There's a funny... It's such an inside joke, like radio that no one would care, like story that I have with Catalon that I'll tell you during the break. If you think it is actually funny to someone who's not in the business, I'll tell it on the air. But I actually think it would just sound super lame if I told it on the air. But I will tell you the story in the break. And then when we get back, we'll preview Thursday Night Football. So that's what we're going to do. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, streaming live on YouTube and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Rushes way. There's sometimes he gets kind of buried inside, and there's alleys to the outside. But I think what's cool is you see as the game goes, I feel like it happened a little bit less, he does it on one snap, and the very next snap he is super tight. He's super on the screws. I also think as the game goes, you see him and Allen playing with each other a little bit more. The way that they're able to do some stunts, some twists, some games up front, or just John realizes that I got to pay a little bit more attention to what Chase is doing and then cover for him if he's going to do stuff. And I don't know which one of those it is, but I feel like he got better as the game went.
Sure.
And you see the high upside stuff that makes him super special. And if they can keep tightening the screws, then it's just going to get better and better as the year goes. And then, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple rushes where I was like, man, that could be better. And there was one. So, for example, on the fumble, on Jamin's fumble, he goes violent inside rush. And I was like, I wonder, like that's poor rushing integrity, right? Because obviously Russell Wilson's going to escape and scramble for a first down. But I do remember in the game plan show that I did with Coach Ron Rivera, I said, how do you kind of manage like a rusher's creativity? Because they're basically artists. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna the creative rushers are the best rushers. The ones that rush outside of structure are the best because they can kind of do whatever and it puts the offensive line in a bind. And he said, well, I think one of the things Jack has done a good job of is identifying packages where they can be Rembrandt, where they can go do what they want to do. And
did Ron really say Rembrandt?
No, I said Rembrandt. I'm churching up a little bit for Ron's sake. Anyway, but in that look, Jamin is spying Russell. And so if you're going to be Rembrandt in a situation, it's that situation. And then, so great inside move, vacates the pocket, and Jamin is really fast. Like, he is very, very fast. Like, holy cow, watching him to run that down was so impressive.
So this is a point I made yesterday, but I want to make it here too.
Yeah.
This is the difference between a first-round pick and like a third-round, fourth-round guy at linebacker is, let's just make it David Mayo. David Mayo could also spy Russell Wilson.
Yes.
But he probably runs him out of bounds, and it's probably a 2-3 yard gain. Jamin is so fast that he gets there before the sideline and is able to force a fumble. And that 1 to 2 yard difference, right, it's a sack, it's behind the line of scrimmage, but that 1 to 2 yard difference of escorting him out of bounds and having to live to fight another down versus the game-changing turnover is what makes a guy like Jamin Davis worth a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Now, he's got to be more consistent over time, and I'd like to see him play more and all those types of things. But like, when you talk about the special stuff of a Montez, of a Chase, of a Jamin Davis, like that's the level of detail that we're talking about. 1 to 2 yards here and there, which is the difference between a turnover and a 3 yard gain out of bounds that is just a mundane play in the NFL. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's just getting darker and darker behind me. I turned the light down, and I need to turn it down more. Getting washed out over here.
I'm not.
No, you look spiffy over there. I look like I need it. As discussed, I look like I need a haircut.
I think the more and more you rub your hands through your hair,
It's getting worse. I'm just trying to keep it out of my face, bro.
Oh, okay.
I need to like wear a headband during the show. My hair's so long right now.
That would be crazy.
Let's see. What time's my haircut tomorrow? Okay. Yeah, so there is gonna be a wacky bit. I'm about to pull back the curtain here for a second. So DA and I tape. Our plan for the season is to tape when he gets off the air and drives home. So he's got like a 45-minute drive home on Fridays outside of New York City to where he lives out in Orange County in New York. So Damon Amendolara, who joins us every Friday, we tape that interview earlier in the day, which sometimes, for those watching on the YouTube stream, we can very easily hide if I simply wear the same shirt, because how would anybody know the difference? But tomorrow, there's going to be the wacky bit where I tape with Damon before my haircut, and then when you watch the show live, I will have a different haircut. So we're going to come out of a commercial break, and it's going to be like, welcome back to the Hoffman Show. Damon Amendolara is with us, and I have hair. A lot of hair. So much hair. This amount of hair.
Wow.
And then be like, that was Damon Amendolara. Be back after this.
Or you could wear a hat.
But then I got to wear a hat the whole show and hide my fresh haircut. I guess I don't have to. I can just wear it for that. Because only the people that are listening right now will know the bit.
Yep.
So if we play that like in the 4 o'clock hour tomorrow, and people that like listen on the drive home or watch earlier and then they're going out to dinner or whatever, they won't know.
Nope.
So maybe I'll wear a hat.
Just an idea,
Yeah. No, it's a good one, Anthony.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for.
You know what you had on? Your thinking cap.
Yes. You can see it?
Yeah.
Me too.
It's a hat.
Yeah.
It's a hat joke. Thinking cap. But feels like an appropriate time for something random. I don't know.
I thought it was gonna be Charlie Brown.
Oh, we can do Charlie Brown.
Hey, Charlie.
Cue up the Chuckster.
This time I'm gonna kick that football clear to the moon.
Bang.
Now football.
Thursday Night Football tonight. Giants are going to be without Saquon Barkley. They're also without Andrew Thomas, their star left tackle. The 49ers are without Brandon Ayuk. Anthony, who wins? Official pick. We got to get it on the record. We can't be missing Thursday Night Football on the picks.
You're right.
Which, by the way, what are our records? We'll pick the rest of the games tomorrow because your boy picked one up on Monday night. Holler.
But your boy Anthony Haney III is leading right now, 21-10. It's me. And you, my sir, are 18-13.
Yep, I am 3 games behind. I think I'll be all right.
And last year, week 3, you went 9-5. I went 8-6. So I need to do a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, although we learned week 2, historical precedent, things can switch.
Yep.
Last year, you were the worst ever, and this year, you were really, really good.
Yes, sir.
But tonight, I've got San Francisco tonight. Like,
You're going San Fran?
Yeah, I'm going San Fran.
Okay.
If you think Brandon Ayuk is more valuable to the Niners than Saquon Barkley and Andrew Thomas are to the Giants, I got a bridge to sell you.
So, I think majority of America has their money on the 49ers. I, myself, Craig, I, too, have my money on the 49ers.
I would say it's one thing to fade the line and the public be on the different side of the line. But to be on the different side of a straight-up win-loss, that would just be silly. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Man. I'm not watching this tonight. Like, I got better things to do in my time than watch. Now, I'm going to talk all this smack and then the Giants are going to win because that's how it works. Like, it's San Fran's home opener. Like, they're fired up. Their defense is amazing. The Giants are without the number one thing that makes their offense go. Like, it's just tough sledding. Like, you could give me prime. Like, if these two teams were at full strength, I'd still pick the Niners. But you take away the most dangerous part of the Giants. And I know they've been able to scheme around Saquon at times in the past, but he is such a big part of what they do. And it was a huge part of their comeback in the second half last week. But the Giants have not looked good so far this year. If the Cardinals can put up that many points on them and Dallas smoked them week 1, like the San Francisco offense with Christian McCaffrey and like Sans Brandon Ayuk, sure, but they still got Debo, they still got Kittle, they still got Juszczyk, they still got, how many other teams, by the way, renaming the fullback, but they still got all these dudes. Like, they're going to be just fine tonight.
Yeah, I think the most, like, discouraging part about the Giants has been their defense. I think the Commanders and the Giants draw a lot of parallels. You know, both teams sort of kind of have question marks on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, they're sort of kind of, identical. Like our defensive front, their defensive front. You can like sort of kind of put them in the same like situation. You know,
I don't know about that.
All right,
I think
maybe not the
Washington's-
edges.
I was gonna say interior,
yes.
Like
Like Kayvon Thibodeau had a phenomenal end to the season last year.
Yeah, but a phenomenal end to the season.
Yeah.
You put together about 6 more half seasons, and you can get Montez Sweat's career.
Okay.
Like, and they don't have someone on the other side like Chase Young. And I also think that Washington is better in the secondary. Like, Bobby McCain's playing a decent amount of snaps for New York. Like, they moved on from Bobby McCain here. Not because he's a bad football player, because he wasn't good enough to be better than what they've got here. Like, they don't have anybody like Cam Curl on the back end.
They got a Xavier McKinney.
You think Xavier McKinney's as good as Cam Curl?
I'm not gonna lie. Across the NFL, I think a lot more people would lean towards Xavier McKinney.
I would take Cam Curl.
I mean, obviously, I would as well, but I'm just saying, like, from a national scope of things.
That's what happens when one plays in New York and one plays for the team that used to be owned by Dan Snyder.
Yeah, that too.
So
that too.
And
then corners also. I'm gonna take the Commanders too.
Yeah, no, and that was going to be the other big difference. Is like the youth. Like, I mean, Banks is super exciting. I liked him a lot coming out, but like, it's what I've seen from Forbes. Like, I get why they took Forbes.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, Forbes is their third corner right now. St. Juste and Fuller, vets who you can trust. So yeah, I just think that like Washington is a elevated version of New York's defense. Okay. And they also play it very differently. That's the other thing. Is like Jack is not very blitz happy. Wink Martindale's the blitz happiest guy in the league.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is always the wild card tonight for can they just get after Brock Purdy? How quickly can he get the ball out?
Mm-hmm.
I think Kyle's just going to try to run it a bunch. But we'll see. Maybe not. Maybe the blitz counter is a lot of screen, a lot of whatever, but is there anybody better on screens than McCaffrey? Like, there's a reason they traded for that dude and are willing to pay him when that position is not one that anybody pays.
Yeah.
He's a lot more than a running back for them. Yeah. And then they got Debo. So
it's not fair.
No. That's why I picked him to win the Super Bowl, bro.
Well, you cling to that hope. I'm going a different direction.
Who'd you pick again?
To win the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Damn. You don't even remember?
I really don't.
Such confidence and conviction.
Hold on.
We gotta look it up.
Yeah.
Is it on that little sheet of paper?
So I have sticky notes in here?
You do.
Oh, here it is right here. Boom. I'm going the Eagles over the Bills. I thought I had the Eagles.
Okay. And you got the Bills, who the Commanders will see this weekend.
Yes. But I think we win this weekend.
Oh.
I didn't mean to. I previewed my pick for tomorrow. But I know where you're going to go. You're going to go with the Bills.
I'm not going to give away the pick.
I already gave away mine.
You have to, two wrongs don't make a right, Anthony Haney.
Right. You're right, Craig.
Damn. What a train wreck. That was a one-man car crash right there. That was incredible. Normally you leave those to me. Thanks for making me feel better.
Anytime.
All right. Here's Anthony Haney, the producer of this fine program. I am Craig Hoffman, and when we get back, we will share with you some of the best sound in all the land. It will be time for Real Things Real People Said into real microphones. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube. Of course, at the Team 980 this weekend. Do not miss the Take Command pregame show. We start at 10, streaming live on YouTube at 106.7 The Fan, at the Team 980. And then, of course, on the radio as well on both stations. You can also catch it on the free Odyssey app. And then post-game, about 90 minutes after the game, Logan and I will be streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 at 106.7 The Fan. And Anthony, we just got word today we're actually going to do that from FedEx because I'll be at the game. And so I'll be able to actually go to the post-game locker room, go to the press conferences, etc. And so it'll be a true post-game report that Logan and I will have for you streaming live after the game. So, yeah, that's the plan this weekend. Make sure you're subscribed at 106.7 The Fan, at the Team 980 on YouTube. And you can watch. You can watch without the subscribing, but it's just harder. So don't do that to yourself. Just hit the subscribe button. And then hit like, too, if it's good. If it's not, then just do your boy a solid, I guess. But hopefully you'll enjoy. Tomorrow on the show, we have Damon Amendolara, because it is a Friday. What else we got, Anthony? I feel like we had something else planned in the bag. We got Take Command. Our guy Sal Capaccio. We'll play you that interview. Anything else that we had in the bag planned?
Oh, Lorenzo.
Oh, yeah, Lorenzo Alexander is going to join the show. I probably should have been teasing that all show long. But, yeah, Lorenzo said he's down to come on tomorrow. We haven't nailed down a time yet, so, fingers crossed on that. And I can't tell you what time. But that's why you should just listen to all 3 hours every day like you have no life and nothing better to do. Not that this is a bad option. I'm going to stop talking now and let other people do it. It's time for Real Things Real People Said into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to be so this year.
Real people.
5 and 11. Not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, it is the saga that has been consuming America. It has brought pop culture America and football America together. There are all kinds of rumors about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift being an item, so much so that this weekend when Travis Kelce found the end zone, it sounded like this on CBS.
Low snap. Mahomes moving pocket. Mahomes floats it up. Caught! Touchdown, Travis Kelce! Kelce finds a blank space for the score.
Well done by Swifty, self-proclaimed in a text message to me. Swifty, I an Eagle. So, Travis Kelce now has addressed the rumors head on. Is this from New Heights? Is this from his podcast? Or is this from...
No, this is actually from the Pat McAfee show.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Which he had to know he was going to get asked.
Yep.
So, Travis Kelce and his mustache on the Pat McAfee show earlier today, courtesy of ESPN.
This is happening, though?
Yeah.
You hate that it's happening?
No, I mean, it's life, baby. It's life. I threw it out there. I threw the ball in her court. And, I told her, maybe I've seen you rock the stage in Arrowhead. You might have to come see me rock the stage in Arrowhead and see which one's a little more lit. So we'll see what happens in the near future.
Oh, Travis! Hey!
All right now.
All right now! Hey, let's go.
All right, man.
We're talking power couple. The NFL's in the game. We appreciate the hell out of you. You're the man. Good luck with everything on the field and in the suites. Yeah. You're the greatest, ladies and gentlemen. Travis Kelce. Thank you, buddy.
It's so funny how America is so invested in just this. Like, every show you go on, every show.
It's hilarious. Well, and also, you have the Swifties learning who Travis Kelce is, and they're very confused.
Uh-huh.
It just seems like I don't pretend to know either of them personally.
Yeah.
It just seems like an odd fit.
I don't know. Maybe it is. I mean, he has a lot of energy. She definitely has a lot of energy. We've seen her, shaking and dancing. I don't know. Maybe it will work. Maybe it won't.
Maybe. I wish happiness for them both.
Yes.
And for all people. And peace on earth. There's no transition for this. We have a new submission to the Real Things Hall of Fame. And it comes from a television station in northern South Carolina, where there was an F-35 that initially went missing and then crashed this weekend. So, Anthony, did you see this story over the weekend?
I did not see the story over the weekend.
Okay, so let's back up. The F-35 is a fighter jet that the military has. It is very expensive. Very expensive. The F-35 program costs the U.S. government / the military over $1 trillion. Like, this is one of the most expensive things in the U.S. government's budget is the program that makes these planes. Each one is incredibly valuable and expensive. And something happened during the training mission that left from, what's it called? It's whatever the fort is, the military base is in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm blanking on the name, so I apologize. But this jet leaves. From there, they go on a training mission, and it's in stealth mode, apparently. And the pilot has to eject. So the pilot's like, I'm up out of here. Pilot lands relatively safely, has, I think, an injury or two that has to be tended to, but, like, is alive. But then they lost the jet. So the jet disappeared from the radar. The U.S. government's like, well, we don't know where the jet is. And so the Buford, which is the suburb not suburb, it's in South Carolina. It's by Charleston. Close enough. If people are actually from there and don't want to say that and want to say it's by Hilton Head, I know I grew up in the state. Leave my geography alone for the sake of the story, which I've now made less efficient by telling you all of those things because I can't help myself. Talk about a plane crash. Hey, we're back. So the F-35 gets essentially lost, and they're like, I don't know where this very expensive warplane went. And lo and behold, sometime the next day or later that day, it crashes somewhere, and luckily no one's hurt. But this $100 million plane is gone. Whoopsies. We crashed the plane. And this is an eyewitness account from a Charleston area television station of someone who heard the crash.
In the bathroom taking a shave, and I heard a screeching, between a screech and a whistle. I said, what in the world is this? And I heard a boom. Then my whole house shook.
White says he didn't realize it was a plane at the time, so he didn't call anybody.
The first thought came to me, I said, must be a meteorite coming out of space or something? And I said, well, if the airplane, it needed to be reported, but the thing was flying just too low.
The F-35B airplane wreckage created an extensive debris field.
That boy, we gotta get a drop for the voice because it might be better than Steph Curry's.
I was gonna say, I feel like we have to do a comparison. Can I pull this off with? Yeah, okay. So I had to compare or see if I had enough channels on the board to do this. But we got Steph Curry here. We got Charlie Brown here. And we got our mans here.
His is better, though.
I think his is the best one. His is definitely, it's not quite Charlie Brown. It's definitely close to Steph Curry, though.
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow.
WTEM Washington and WJFK HD2 Manassas, the Team 980, an Odyssey station.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie bundles let you create your own delicious combo. Choose from a sausage biscuit, egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, and a medium hot coffee. But it's obvious which.
Nah, that one's hilarious.
And small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or 2 savory sausage.